All right, welcome everybody to a special edition, not only playoff edition, but year end edition of the AFC Northcast. The voice you're hearing right now is Joey, our avid Ravens representation, and I'm joined tonight by the beautifully dressed for award season, Chad, Steelers Chad.
I always bring out my finest for the awards ceremonies. Sean Prano, if you're out there listening and you don't
Oof.
recognize this tux, then you were far too drunk at a very special day of yours.
Yeah, that's Sean has been pretty active in trying to get Justin's attention to
Good.
to no avail. I don't know if Justin even has like social media apps or anything on his phone or anything anymore.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have made that sort of.
He just had to disappear.
Sean is a man of means and perseverance. They'll find him.
So we've got a lot on tap for tonight. There is not a ton going on in the division. We're going to start off tonight. The first thing that we'll talk about is we're going to preview the Ravens game. And then we're going to give out our all AFC North team awards and end of year awards. But first, we're going to start with a little drink roundtable. What you got there, Chad?
This is a beer called Erastus from Schillings, which is one of the great local kind of not even best kept secrets in a town near me in Littleton, New Hampshire. And I just happened to be over there the other day and filled up a little miniature crowler kind of deal, which will be perfect for the awards ceremony. It's a Belgian triple. It's full of booze and good times, just like award ceremonies. Get ready. I've got nominations up the wazoo.
Hell yeah! And
What are you drinking?
I've got a little Kentucky Mule here, rather than a
Nice.
Moscow Mule. We got some bourbon in our ginger beer tonight,
Oh, yeah.
so it
We're
ought
going
to
to make
be.
all sorts of good decisions for the AFC North, aren't we?
Yeah, we sure are.
Justin's going to be so proud of us.
But I think first order of business and the only real news that's happening right now outside of the Ravens getting ready to play on Saturday, tomorrow, less than 24 hours from now, is the Browns hunt for a head coach. They've interviewed, I think, 7 guys, with interviews concluding with Josh McDaniels today, longtime offensive coordinator for the Patriots under Belichick, one-time Denver Broncos head coach.
Nice way to say. I was going to say short time.
Yeah, drafter,
Short time.
drafter of Tim Tebow.
And the receiver,
That whole
Demarius
deal.
Thomas.
Yeah,
So
and
you got one right.
they are the last team with a head coaching vacancy to fill the role. And they have said, the Haslams have said that they want to make a decision tomorrow at the latest. So there's some pretty interesting things going around. I know Justin's been drinking a little bit of the Josh McDaniels Kool-Aid and some of the potential that could come with that on the rumor mill. Do you want to highlight some of the key points of that?
I'm going to paint you guys a picture of an NFL dominated by Browns fever, even more so than this past offseason. I'm not going to tell you that this is going to come to pass, but I'm reporting it as news. The Browns are hiring Josh McDaniels. The Browns have already started contract negotiations with one Tom Brady. Why? Because the Browns have been working the back door trade with the Bengals to trade their once franchise beer shotgunning quarterback Baker Mayfield and player to be determined for future star Joe Burrows, who will apprentice under the GOAT for one Super Bowl winning season and then take over what will become the greatest dynasty the Midwest has ever seen since Kevin Costner baseball films.
Boom.
Did
That's
I
it.
nail it?
So, laid it all out there. If you're asking yourself at home, who is negotiating with Tom Brady? Don't worry about it. The Browns. All right. The capital B, the Browns.
Yeah.
uh, the
Big brother.
GMless Browns. So I
They'll
think,
hire Tom Brady's strength coach or workout guy.
yeah. So let's see. I'm pulling up. Oof, we talked a lot today. The chat's been pretty quiet recently, but
I'm just saying this is going to happen. Like Tom Brady is either staying with the Patriots or he's doing something weird.
yeah. The
And
Chargers is like a big rumor
that's lame.
for
He's
him.
like Chargers.
I know the
Like
Colts have been talked about,
I'll put down the facade for a second.
but
I like the Colts. The Colts seems realistic to me. They've got kind of a foundation. I like Tennessee. That's a theory that was proposed to me.
ooh, we got the Vrabel connection.
You've got the talent, you got the Vrabel connection. They're ready. They're ready. You got a guy that he can throw the ball like 4 to 6 yards and he can do all the rest of the stuff in AJ Brown. And some other talented guys that have been hurt. Humphreys, I think Adam Humphreys had been having a nice little year. They've got a lot of nice young pieces. But that's all window dressing because we're here at the AFC North to report that Tom Brady is going to be dressed not in orange, not in brighter orange, but in the new brightest orange that money can buy next year.
The
It's
orange will be
happening.
oranger. You thought the
Oranger.
orange was oranger already. The
That's
orange is going to be orangest next
fuck
year.
the joke up. That's what I meant. Orange, oranger, the orangest orange. It's gonna be
Roddy
awesome.
said to start over. He just got here. Don't fret, Roddy. We haven't even started awards talk yet. At
Yeah.
first we need to talk about the showdown at the bank and big trust. But how do you feel about Josh McDaniels as a head coach? Is that something like I feel like the romanticism of it is kind of gone after he like left the Colts at the altar, so to speak, and he's already been to Denver and back. Like, I don't know. I'm not super excited about the prospect of Josh McDaniels as a head coach.
That's why I'm more excited about it. I heard a Patriots guy interviewed this past week on the Browns Hype Machine podcast, also known as CBD, also known as Cleveland Browns Daily, and kind of what they said is that McDaniel's problem in Denver was that he had never developed relationship building skills, which is why you can't just be a good coordinator and turn into a head coach because you
Right.
can't just lock yourself in a room and draw X's and O's for 4 hours when you're sad. Like you have
Dean.
other things you have to do. But now I've heard that he has been substantially improved in that regard since his return to the Patriots. And rumors are he's very excited about the Cleveland job. And if he is, he should be excited to build those relationships now that he's good at it. A lot of these guys do a better job second go round. One of them is Bill Belichick, who was pretty average with the Browns and then built the greatest dynasty of all time with Patriots. So I think it's a good hire, potentially. I think it's really hard to know if a head coach is a good hire because every team defines the job a little differently. So it's very hard to figure out what kind of person is a good fit for the job because they're all a little bit different. But I wouldn't criticize it outright the way a lot of people criticized Freddie Kitchens when he was first hired out.
Oh yeah, no.
I think it's as good a chance to take as any.
Yeah, I mean he's as experienced a coordinator as there is on the market, as successful a coordinator as there is on the market. The way that he's shown in his career And I think Belichick often maybe gets too much credit for, like, he's one man and he can't literally be in every meeting room at the same time, to like devise game plans and things like that. And I know he influences these guys, and all of the assistants, I imagine, kind of know what Bill's general thoughts are and things like that. I'm sure he's great at conveying things like that, but like at some point these guys are by themselves doing shit. Like, not everybody in the organization can be a puppet for Bill Belichick all the time.
Yeah, unless you believe in the kind of, it's unlikely. He's doing good work. Yeah,
Yeah.
without going way into the weeds on it.
And like Harbaugh, even though he's not the offensive guy, Harbaugh's got a lot of credit this year for kind of being a chameleon and adjusting schemes to what they have, personnel wise, specifically with Lamar. And that's something that Josh McDaniels has done. Like, you don't always have Randy Moss and Tom Brady throwing 50 fucking touchdowns. Like, I mean, they've made guys in New England.
Yeah, I mean, when you're at the top of a large pyramid, you're looking down from 40,000 feet, you almost get credit for doing less. Like, all you have to do is not be in the way of just inevitable change, which most head coaches in the NFL are unwilling to do. They're like people standing on train tracks with their hands out. Like, and
Yeah.
Harbaugh was just like, I'll just kind of wave the train by. I'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, this train seems
Just
cool.
hop on.
And then I'll hire a guy that seems like he could drive a train. And then I'll be like, nice. And
Yeah.
he should get credit for that because it's a big deal for a lot of these head coaches. But yeah, I think the Ravens coordinators and most teams coordinators, except for maybe like the Chiefs and the 49ers and the Rams, like their coordinators are doing a substantial amount of the building of the plan.
Yeah. And one more intersection in my mind of Patriots assistant and John Harbaugh conversation. Uh, Joe Judge was hired also, the special teams coordinator for the Patriots. This hire, I feel like this hire is, we're looking for the next John Harbaugh. Is that like super, like that's, and people aren't really talking about that. They're talking more about like the Belichick thing, but it's like, oh, special teams coordinator. Like, Harbaugh was a secondary coach. This guy is also a wide receivers coach. Like, that's what it seems like to me.
Sure. I mean, you're like very much focused on yourself and your team right now, and you should be. And you should be because it's very, very rare for your team to be as good as yours is. And there are similarities, so I think it's fair. I think that the reality is that this guy got hired, and we live in an era of the internet where people talk about football all day long, and no one had ever heard of this guy. So
Yeah.
now we just have to try and make some patterns out of it. And it's like, maybe we just don't have any, and that's why we didn't know they were going to do it. This is the one that the Giants hired, right? Not
Yeah.
Carolina, or am I getting it
Yeah.
backwards?
The Giants.
Yeah, the Giants do some random shit. Like, you know? So we'll see. I have no opinion on this, but much like Daniel Jones, I'm very excited to watch it unfold.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on him just because I don't fucking know anything about him. Matt Slater seems like a pretty easy special teamer to coach. And other than that, the only thing I know about their philosophy on special teams is left footed punters. And that's about it. So,
That's weird. It sounds like something that they would care about.
yeah,
Yeah, spin's probably different, so it's harder to catch,
it's
basically.
a staple of Bill
Every
Belichick.
every little advantage. Sure.
Yep.
Why not?
Fucking
Um,
weirdos.
maybe just one last question that we probably should have got to right away because we did break this news. Do you think that Tom Brady will be able to establish good chemistry with Odell Beckham Jr. right away?
Um, yeah, I think so. I mean,
I
you
think
look
so
at
too.
the list of guys that came. Randy Moss came in, and right away they clicked. So
I'm with you.
OBJ
I
is
think,
basically the same.
yeah, maybe better after a year of resting. Uh, you know, I think this is going to be a crazy year. And honestly, Justin, don't be sad. Take all those Super Bowl plans, roll them up, put them somewhere safe because you guys are going to have a parade February 12th, 2021. Book it.
J.R. Smith will be there with no shirt.
Booyah.
All right. Speaking of parades, uh, I've been planning the Ravens Super Bowl parade probably for like 3 months now, since the New England game, pretty
Yeah.
much. And
Yeah.
another team is coming into the big crab cake with hot off the heels of a win against New England, the Tennessee Titans. The game is on Saturday at 8-ish, 8:30 maybe, on CBS. The Ravens are a 10-point favorite right now. You can get it like 9.5 other places. They're a really big home favorite. Big things to note for the game. Mark Ingram did not practice the whole time that the Ravens were off until yesterday, Thursday, which for a Saturday game is effectively like the Friday practice. He was a limited participant. He's got a calf injury. He may or may not go. They think he will. But it's easy to imagine that he'll kind of be eased into some things. And last week in Foxborough, the Titans lost their starting linebacker, Jayon Brown, which is kind of a big deal. Dory Jackson is fighting through some things in the secondary. He played all but like 3 snaps in New England, but it's looking like he may not even play against the Ravens. And generally that's it. It's the whole rest versus rust argument is the crux of this game, as it always is in the divisional round. The recency bias is in favor of the Titans for sure. They just took down the Death Star. And but I'm not worried, even a little bit. I'm not even worried if Mark Ingram doesn't play. I think Gus Edwards, who, by the way, averaged more yards per carry than Mark Ingram this year, is a fine replacement. And between he and Justice Hill, everything will be A-OK. The Titans this year, just to keep going with when the Ravens have the ball, obviously everything hinges on Lamar. If Lamar is not a bumbling mess like he was the last time we saw the Ravens lose against Cleveland, then I think the Ravens win pretty easily. If they don't turn the ball over, the Titans can't beat them.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about the Titans defense except they seem to overperform their talent. Um, I think it's pretty important to remember that the Titans held the Patriots to 13 points, not a team that has like a successful offense. The Patriots have had serious problems. The Ravens are so much better than the Patriots on offense that it's hard to even classify them the same at all. And it's really, really crucial that the Titans maintain some level of competitive nature in this game. Like, they can't be down by 2+ scores. They just can't. Like, Ryan Tannehill has played really well, and he's thrown the ball into some tight windows, but, like, no, it's not like a secret. Their entire game plan is to have Tractor Cedo, who should be like Tractor Extremo. Like, he's not even a small tractor. Yeah. He's the biggest tractor at the store. He's
Tractor Grande. Yeah.
Tractor Grande. Tractor Maximo. Tractor whatever. Pick it. You know? He's huge. He's a huge, fast person. And I challenge you to tell me that in the fourth quarter, either of these two clowns that the Ravens have gotten to overperform that they picked up off the street in Josh Bynes or LJ Fort are going to be able to tackle this guy. Like, they're just not. The reason that it doesn't matter is that they're probably going to be up by 20 by the fourth quarter. But if they're not, you got like real problems, like real actual problems in your heart. I can feel your nerves right now imagining the Ravens up by 7 or less at the start of the fourth quarter. You're panicking.
I'm not,
Yes.
and I'll tell you why. The Titans are going to have to score in this game, and they're just not gonna.
You don't
Brandon
think they're gonna
Williams,
score?
Brandon Williams, and Michael Pierce are going to stuff the inside. Like, Derrick Henry only had 14 of his 34 carries in the first half last week. That means 20 carries came in the second half, and they're just not going to be able to do that against the Ravens. The Patriots scored 13 points last weekend. Like, the Ravens might score 13 points in the first 5 minutes of the football game. Like, that's a very real possibility. And I will just go on to tell you why. All right, you ready? Besides the very obvious domination of the Ravens run game and how multiple they are, whether it's Gus Edwards, who poses a totally different problem. We won't even talk about Mark Ingram. Gus Edwards and Lamar. All right? Pick your poison. As long as Lamar's making the right read, you cannot win on these option plays. And even if you make the right read, if you make the right read on Lamar and Lamar keeps it, you still have to tackle him. And that's a problem that he poses to a defense that no other player in the league poses. The Titans are the only AFC playoff team that has not encountered this Lamar Jackson offense in person yet. They've given up 90 plus catches, 900 plus yards, and 9 touchdowns to tight ends this year. That is an all-pro tight end. The Titans have given up an all-pro tight end to jobbers. Who's the starting tight end for the Jaguars? I don't know, but he averaged all-pro against the Titans. They're also one of 8 teams in the NFL this year to give up over 4,000 yards passing and 25 passing touchdowns. None of the other 7 teams made the playoffs. Lamar Jackson led the league in passing touchdowns this year. Like, it's just not a good matchup. Everybody's rock hard for the Tennessee Titans because they went in and they beat a Patriots team that is just not the same. They're vulnerable to the run and they can't score. And that's the difference between the Ravens and the Patriots. Is the Ravens are vulnerable to the run too. But the Ravens can score. And even if they don't score early, you could still end up fucked. Like the end of the first quarter against the Houston Texans, who everybody else is on the Houston Texans nuts after they needed Josh Allen to play football like he got his talent stolen by the Monstars in the second half last weekend. The Texans and the Ravens were 0-0 at the end of the first quarter, and the Ravens beat them by like 35 points. So I'm not worried about Derrick Henry. I'm sure he'll average at least 4 yards a carry for the first quarter. And then it's going to be on Ryan Tannehill, who's been great against the blitz this year, but the Ravens' blitzes are different. Like, the Ravens
Those
disguise their
interesting
blitzes.
points.
The Ravens' secondary by personnel is probably the best secondary in the league. Like, this is just not the same as last week.
They're right there. Why don't you check our correspondence from our potential super secret co-host that we always have. And I'll just let you get back to neutral while I kind of agree with you. I think that the Tennessee hype, yeah, it's all recency bias. It's all Tractor Cedo related, just excitement. Dude, we're all just so excited that nobody can tackle Derrick Henry. We're just too excited. It's so fun to watch him steamroll people. And the reality is, the Ravens are not. I don't think they're equipped to stop him. Like, I don't care if they have two big run stoppers in the middle because he doesn't have to run right down the middle.
Oh,
Yo.
hey, what's going on?
All right, everybody. Bear with us if you're watching on the stream. We just brought Justin on, and my dumbass has to figure out how to do this.
How to
Joey,
make
by
boxes?
the way, way to elegantly segue while I was talking about how exciting Derrick Henry is.
I didn't know it was just
cut me
gonna
off entirely.
cut
Like,
everything
normally we
off.
finish a topic. This is a professional podcast. I've got my freaking tuxedo on. This is a goddamn awards show, and you just cut me off like that. You know what? The Ravens are going to lose. They're going to lose by like 17. You're going to talk about how they can't score. Derrick Henry's going to score 2 touchdowns in the first half, and Ryan Tannehill's going to throw darts in the red zone like he did against the Patriots before they stopped doing that, like early in the game. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy, and your little Joey Hart is going to break. No, it's not going to happen. The Ravens are going to score too many points. They just score all the time.
Yeah.
And Tennessee's defense isn't that good. It just looked good because they played against an inept offense. It's like how the Steelers made teams' offenses, or defenses look good. Yeah, of course they did. Like, they stink. They did stink. They stunk in the past because they're done now. So yeah, I'm on the Ravens. I picked the Tennessee in our little pool just because I figured everyone else would pick the Ravens, and just in case I could, have a chance of winning by picking the underdogs.
So we're talking Ravens Titans, huh?
Yeah, you got an opinion?
Yeah, Ravens by like 1.5 million. Right. So first off, the Titans are always frauds. They always do this. How they somehow sneak their way into the playoffs at like 9-6 or 8-8 or whatever it is, or 9-7, 8-8, whatever it is. And then they win their like first game by some fluke or just by the way the seeds work out or whatever it is, and then they lose their second game. Like, someone was talking to me earlier about Tannehill, and they're like, yeah, maybe like we're learning more about Tannehill, and like he'll see more in his second year with the Titans and how he'll produce and stuff like that. Like, I could not disagree more. I think in his second year, Tannehill is going to be exposed, and he's going to go right back to where he was before. I think people were unexpected for like what he could potentially bring because of the run game that Derrick Henry brings, but I don't think Tannehill is anything special. He threw for like 72 yards or something like that in the game against the Patriots. Like, come on, man. Right? Come on. The game was incredibly close with an offense from the Patriots that was inept, and that's being kind to what they brought to the table. So yeah, when you have like the offense that the Ravens can run, and the fact that the Titans defense is overwhelmingly nothing special, if that kind of makes sense, and the entire offense runs through Derrick Henry, I think the Ravens defense and Wink Martindale are more than capable enough to be able to scheme against something like that with whatever they have going on. Yeah, I have zero confidence in the Titans. So, although it would be nice if the Titans like went to and like won the Super Bowl or something, because then I could be like, oh, that first game against the Titans, they were like Super Bowl champions, so like 47-3, like whatever.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota is like Nick Foles in reverse. He
Yeah.
won the critical first game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh man.
Roddy has a good point. Also, I am the master.
What?
Yeah, we're all three on now. on the live stream,
Okay.
and it looks
Nice.
fucking amazing.
Settle
Good job,
down
dude.
there, Oz.
Oh, shit.
Roddy did mention that Derrick Henry went capital nuts last week, and the Titans scored 14 points.
Right. So with him going nuts, they only scored 14 points. So there's like this kind of I don't want to say scheme. I guess scheme would be an idea, a way to put it, that Belichick puts forward. And he says, look, if we let them win in the run game, then in the pass game, we can completely eliminate them, right? And then when it comes to the red zone, which is where the Patriots offense has always thrived, right? The bend don't break, then we're fine, right? So with Derrick Henry putting up like 368 yards, they only scored 14 points, and then that's important, I think. So I don't know how he was trying to frame that, but that's how I kind of see that.
It's important to also look at Derrick Henry's other good games, like Week 17 when he ran for 211 yards, and they scored. You can double check me on this, Roddy, but more than 14 points by many of. Derrick Henry doesn't just run for lots of yards, and then you have direct correlate or opposite correlation to the amount of points they score. So it so happens that that's how it worked last week. Like, it's not just like a gimme strategy that you let Derrick Henry run wild and the Titans just stop like gaining yards. Like the points that the Titans did score were on like nice red zone plays. Like Tannehill threw an awesome touchdown in the red zone against the Patriots, who have a great secondary. Like, this is a team that's been scoring. Like, I don't think you should assume that the Titans are going to only score 14 points. I think that's a huge mistake. In fact, I would say that I would bet that the Titans will score at least 20, like at least. Now, I think that the Ravens, I mean, they'll probably score like 35. So, or more. Like, so that's why I still think the Ravens will win comfortably, probably. But I think you should be scared of a fourth quarter in which they are not already up by multiple scores. Like, you should.
But
They're
it's
a
just
good
not
enough
going to
team.
happen. I cannot stress enough how badly Mark Andrews is going to butt fuck the Tennessee Titans.
I'm just so glad that this is on the internet, because in the rare situation in which you're wrong, it'll just live on forever. And hopefully it'll come up in my Facebook memory every year in the playoffs, and I'll just make a little gif of it. It'll just be Joey in a Ravens jersey being like, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
I have
Some
two other things to bring up. The Dean Pease connection. The defensive coordinator for the Titans was a longtime defensive coordinator for the Ravens. And his protege, Wink Martindale, is now the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. Was a linebackers coach when Pease was the defensive coordinator. And everybody loved Vrabel and the inside lane he had on Belichick's defense. This is the exact same situation, but opposite. The Titans do not have an advantage with having Dean Pease. Wink Martindale's defense is different, and the Ravens know exactly what Dean Pease does. They know the holes in the Dean Pease defense because we got to see it all the time. And if I'm beating a dead horse, the holes of the Dean Pease defense are the seams. And so guess what the Ravens are going to do? They're going to beat the dick off of the Titans in the seams. And
I just want to give a little bit of shine. No, I'm going to do it. To the other Titans skill players, because all we've talked about is Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown has had a crazy awesome year as a rookie.
yeah,
He's a physical specimen. He's probably not like a polished route runner, but without going into who you think or who we think is a better, I think it'll be fun to watch him run against the Ravens secondary. I'd be relatively surprised if they have anyone follow him. If anyone, it seems like Jimmy Smith might be the guy. Marlon Humphrey may be physical enough to do it, but I kind of think they'll just let him wander. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see him play against a lot of pretty elite corners as a young guy who's just kind of coming into his own and having a great year. And they don't have their second wide receiver, Adam Humphries, who had a really nice second half. But Tajay Sharp, I guess, he's been pretty decent. So you wouldn't call this an advantage Tennessee at all. But these guys have been playing well enough that it'll be at least fun to watch early in the game to see if they come up with a clever way to get some of these guys the ball.
Yeah, and I do think that between the physicality of AJ Brown and the threat that Derrick Henry the very real threat that Derrick Henry poses, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit less of Marcus Peters, especially on early downs. Because Jimmy Smith and Marlon Humphreys are both big physical guys, and we'll probably see a little bit more of Chuck Clark and Brandon Carr and some of these guys rather than Peters outside of obvious passing situations, at least early on.
So
Go ahead.
let's talk about some of the notable wins. And by notable, I mean every win for the Titans this year. All right? The Browns, the
Is that notable?
Falcons. No, I mean all of them.
Okay.
So the Browns, the Falcons, they got blown out by the Broncos, by the way. The Chargers.
Yeah, Derrick Henry against the Broncos had like 15 carries for 28 yards, by the way.
Yeah. The Chargers, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Colts after Jacoby Brissett got injured and continued to play, the Raiders, the Texans once at the end of the season, the last game when the Texans were already locked up in their positional spot in the division, and their one notable win was the Chiefs by 3 points. That's the one that like everyone I think is like kind of holding on to.
With no Tyreek Hill.
Right, but I think that's like an any given Sunday kind of a situation in a win. Was that before Mahomes injured his knee, or was that the game? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I think the time frame for when Mahomes injured his knee is important to look at for that one, but we don't got time for that. But either way, so if you look at some of those teams, right, that the Titans have beaten by a very small margin on a lot of those games, yeah, they're fraudulent. They have been. They've always been. They will continue to be.
Also, everybody that wants to point to the playoffs last year and Lamar Jackson's performance in said playoffs, the closest thing since then that he's had is 3 primetime games this year. And he's 3-0 in those games with 11 touchdowns and no interceptions. So
that's pretty good. We'll see.
My last thing I want to talk about, can we talk about how much of a buffoon Eddie George is? I might be breaking this to Justin.
Probably. Neither of us care about this.
Oh, yeah. Eddie George's soulless ass went on the Pat McAfee show. And Eddie George, former Titan, right?
Yeah, Titan running back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Told Pat McAfee that the reason the Ravens are in trouble is the Ravens offense goes through Mark Ingram. And if Mark Ingram doesn't get 25 to 30 carries in this game, then he can't see the Ravens winning. The Ravens are in trouble.
Yeah. Didn't Gus Edwards get like 130 something yards the last game or some shit?
Well, yep, yep. It gets even better. Mark Ingram's season high in any game for carries is 19. And that was the overtime game against Pittsburgh. So Mark Ingram hasn't even had 20 carries in a game this year, and the Ravens are on a 12-game win streak. They're 14-2. They beat the shit out of everybody that was a playoff contender that they played. Get out of here, Eddie George. He's just butthurt because Ray Lewis took his will to live in 2000.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Eddie George went on to media, and we know this because we're professionals. When you get on media,
nothing but
you prepare. You prepare, because otherwise you might sound like an idiot.
Professionals do.
Like when I broke the news earlier this podcast that Tom Brady was going to wear the orangest orange, I was prepared. That's why I'm right, and that's why people are going to be flocking around talking about this. Because the news is broken by a journalist, okay? Eddie George has a lot to learn, and that's why he's probably a listener, you know? He's coming on to real media, and he's learning. And we all have to do that. We all have mentors. I get it. I get it. He's learning. He's learning the ropes. It's tough, dude. This isn't an easy job.
Look, just when you thought that the orange couldn't get oranger, wait till the off season. Oh my goodness, it's gonna get so orange.
Yeah.
But
it
anyways,
is.
I'm
All
still
right.
waiting, by the way. But anyways,
Also, I'd like to point out, Justin can appreciate this. Last week, the Saints opted to wear white shirts and white pants at home in the playoffs and lost to a 6 seed.
yeah, the white on white. See, what was strange to me when I was looking at that is I was watching, I was like, that's not the Power Rangers uniform, is it? I was like, no, something's not right. And then I looked, and it wasn't. Like, and in my opinion, if you're gonna wear white on white at home, like, wear the Power Rangers uniform,
Hell yeah.
man.
That
Like,
shit's
that's like
fire.
it's been voted like unanimously multiple times through multiple sources that's like one of the best uniforms in the NFL. And I couldn't, I don't know. I was very confused. But yeah, white on white, trash.
Offensive pass interference be damned.
Yeah.
This game was
Jeez.
over from the get-go. Equipment manager, you're out.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go around the room. Who you got? Maybe give
Ravens.
a score prediction, too. What do you think?
Ravens, 38. Titans, 28.
Ravens, 42.
My man.
Titans, 21. Only to stick with your prediction of the Titans putting up at least 20 points, and then also eventually games get away from you, and you kind of like let go of things.
I'm going to say Ravens. I was going to go about 42 until Justin did. Ravens 45. Titans 17. And RG3 plays the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Playoff game. Yeah.
And Mike
All right,
Vrabel
so-
saves his penis.
We're all in
Yeah.
agreement. We want to have something to talk about next week, so we're picking the Ravens to win despite all odds. And Travis is
Yeah, against all odds.
conquering.
So, yeah,
Nobody
I was gonna
believes
say,
in this
is
Ravens
Vegas, like,
team.
against yeah, I was about to say, what's going on? Am I missing something?
All right.
I'm just adding flair, guys. You know, I'm the one in the tux here. I've got to create drama.
All right, boys. Well,
Should we do some awards?
absolutely.
Sure.
Let's do it. So, welcome to the first annual, and as far as I know, the first time anybody's ever done an all AFC North team. Brought to you by the AFC North cast. Sponsored by
Bullet Bourbon.
Maine Microbreweries.
Mm-hmm.
They've got good ones. Unfortunately, none of us are representing them.
That's right. Shall we start on offense?
I think so.
And
I
we'll
think
just-
it's the natural.
Roll down.
So let's save quarterback for last because I think that's not only obvious but also fun.
Okay. Tom Brady.
Because I gave you guys my spreadsheet earlier, but I actually have a mild, lukewarm take.
I actually didn't look at the spreadsheet too much,
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
I was just gonna wing it with the spreadsheet, anyways. All right, so we'll start with all AFC North first team running. Do we want to do first and second teams, or just do first team?
Let's just do first team, and then if
Keep
there
it
comes a
short. We
dispute,
don't need,
I
like,
think
a-
It'll
about
sort of
second
work
teams.
itself
Yeah.
out. We're going to debate,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in the course of that, we'll have other players, and we'll sort of,
I know it's Friday night, but we don't need like a 3-hour podcast.
don't we?
Look, man, I'm
This is
home.
the Irishman.
I'm ready to go.
Not me.
Yeah.
The
All
more
right.
drunk we get, the better the nominations
Yeah.
get.
All right, Chad, why don't you kick us off since you are the first one on the left? You're all AFC North first team running back.
All right, I'm going to let you guys do the stats because I don't want to be the numbers guy. I've got some numbers. I don't want to be the numbers guy. This is going to be a unanimous pick unless Joey's an asshole. Nick Chubb is the best running back in the division. And I'll tell you when I knew it. They were playing Baltimore. It was week 3. He busted a how many yard run was it, Joey? Justin? How many yards?
The one
76?
with the epic picture.
Oh yeah, the one where as you watched Earl Thomas just stop running, one of the fastest
Oh, that
safeties in
one.
the league, one of the players that can cover the most distance in the shortest amount of time, took a bad angle and just gave up. You know who didn't give up? Baker Mayfield, who in the picture of the year was caught doing the airplane wings behind Nick Chubb as he trotted into the end zone. This dude is a baller. He breaks tackles, he dodges tackles, he breaks tackles behind the line of scrimmage. He runs over linebackers, he dodges cornerbacks. He's just an awesome player. He works super hard. He had the third most carries in the NFL, maybe, and yet everybody wanted him to get more. You know, why isn't he getting the
Yeah.
ball? He should have the most carries than all the next 10, just like America's military, right? We don't want to compare ourselves to one man. He should have more carries than the next 10 running backs. He's awesome. He's the future of the team, and he's the best.
Yeah, I mean, I have to overwhelmingly agree. Of course, I think the important part is that the runner up, in my opinion, would have been potentially someone like Mark Ingram, but the
Way to
what
take
drives
a
this,
way to take a hard line on that.
yeah, right. What drives the stake between the two of them is that Mark Ingram is the beneficiary of like an all-pro offensive line on like 4 out of 5 spots, right? Whereas Nick Chubb does not have as much help. The other thing too is that like I can't find it, but the yards after contact, if there's like a yards after contact stat out there, I'm sure Nick Chubb is like number 1 or number 2 or something like that. It's crazy about how he's able to shed blockers and just keep running through. As Marshawn, the great philosopher Marshawn Lynch would have said, uh, you know,
Run through a motherfucker face.
yeah, run through motherfucker's face.
If you just run through
Like
somebody's face over and
again,
over
or
and
over
over
and
and
over
over
and over.
and over, they just not gonna want that.
Right.
Do you think there's
I
a
love-
deeper meaning there?
Probably, yeah.
Run
Probably
through a
something more about
motherfucker
that.
face. That's what the interviewer asked, and that's when
Right.
Marshawn said, "Run through a motherfucker
Right.
face." Yeah, it's Nick Chubb, guys.
Yeah. Surprising, huh? What was the
Chad, I
three
can't
there,
hear you.
Chad? Yeah, you're muted or something. I don't think he knows. Hold on. Oh, there, now he knows. He's frantically like, oh shit. There we go.
Technology. 3 yards after contact, boys, which is good for first in the AFC North, and I don't know what in the NFL, but it was high.
3
Also,
yards after
the
contact,
Ravens-
Some people only get 3 yards per carry. Like,
Yeah.
The further case burying Mark Ingram is the Ravens led the league this year in rushers yards before first contact. So that speaks more to Justin's point about the Ravens offensive line and their scheme and everything supporting the run game and the Browns' reluctancy to even run sometimes.
Yeah, we don't have to debate it, but I actually put Joe Mixon as my second if we were going to go there because of his second half and the fact that he's like literally their only weapon. He's the only guy getting them to victory. And he's still breaking tackles and doing crazy stuff. I wasn't going to get offended if I lost that vote, but I think Joe Mixon's second half and his lack of offensive line is a big deal to me. So I narrowly put him over Mark Ingram.
Joe Mixon's offensive line is almost, not even almost, I think almost objectively more inept than Nick Chubb's. So he does deserve some credit there. However, I will also say the majority of, Joe Mixon's great second half was through Cleveland. 2 games where he got like 140 yards each of those games. So
Also, to get all AFC North, you can't just have moments. You have to produce. All right, like Joe
He had
Mixon produced
1,140 yards.
for like a quarter of the season.
He had 1,140 yards on
to do it in a
How many
quarter of
touchdowns?
games.
5.
Oh, that's funny. Mark Ingram had 5 touchdowns too, receiving, and 10 rushing. Get out of here, Joe Mixon.
Yeah, he got to have Lamar hand him the ball, and if the defensive end decided
So-
not to tackle him, he kept it. Like,
Let's do this. Let's do this. So if you had a 2 running back scheme, Nick Chubb and
Kareem Hunt.
like if you had like a wishbone or something like that on the field, you'd have Nick Chubb and who else? Mark Ingram or Joe Mixon?
well, I'm not
Whoa.
choosing either of them, and you're possibly ruining another position we're going to discuss later.
I'm just saying in general. And then also here's another question: is as a third down running back, who would you rather have, Mark Ingram or Joe Mixon? I would say Joe Mixon in that set.
Joe Mixon sucks at pass protection, but he's better at pass catching.
Right.
Joe Mixon is a bad third down back. That's
You
the
think
bottom
so?
line. And so I would not use either of those players as my third down back. I would beg you to not discuss this until we get to the 11th guy on this team,
Okay.
Body's
all right,
favorite
all right.
position, which
The
begins as
flex.
flex but ends as an actual position once we decide what our formation will be.
Fair.
Roddy.
Okay. So let's move on to tight ends.
His
This is
name
another.
rhymes with
Yeah.
a word I'm not going to say on this podcast.
It starts with a C.
Yeah.
Tight
So-
ends. I'll make
tight
this
ends.
nomination. It'll be my pleasure. All AFC North, first team, second team, and third team. Mark Andrews. He led the league in all pass catchers in touchdowns with 10. Yeah, I mean, he's great.
Right.
He set Ravens franchise records in receiving. He was the leading receiver on a team that led the NFL in offense. Like, no one else. I even tried to look up like second team guys that were not on the Ravens, and I decided Hayden Hurst, I guess. But like, there's no one else in the division that
So for
was
me-
healthy long enough to produce enough to even be worth mentioning, in my opinion.
For me, Mark Andrews, the big thing is that he can also block. That's a huge thing, right? But as far as a second team guy, I picked the ever elusive, and I say elusive because he's elusive to playing a whole season, Tyler Eifert. Didn't play the
Bingo.
whole season, but got like 550 yards, which was actually
Yes,
the
he
second
did.
most yards in 550 is like a rough estimate. Second most yards of any tight end in the AFC North, right? So even though he did miss some games, he still actually produced. Not nearly what he has in the past, but also Tyler Eifert, super injury prone. Tyler Eifert also not as good of a protection as Mark Andrews. So I think Mark Andrews is almost unanimous.
Yeah, neither of them are that good at blocking, to be honest. That's why the Ravens play like 900 tight ends.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Tyler Eifert is the clear second choice here. He finally played a full season, all 16 games, 43 catches, 436 yards, and a box-out touchdown to send a game versus Miami in what was one of the games of the year to overtime with 0 seconds remaining on the gosh darn clock. One of the most exciting plays of the season. Tyler Eifert, welcome back to the NFL.
With all 400 and something yards.
That's right.
Hey,
Yeah, Mark Andrews. Who's your man? Great.
All right. Excuse me. Moving on to wide receivers. And we'll go first team wide receivers. 2 of them. Justin, you can start us off.
I think it's pretty clear, pretty unquestionable, pretty straightforward. Odell and Jarvis Landry, even though they've had a team that was inept, they've had a quarterback that threw just as many, well, almost just as many touchdowns as interceptions. They still both managed to eclipse the 1,000-yard kind of general litmus test for a wide receiver. Not many other wide receivers in the AFC North were able to do so. I would say potentially Juju. He didn't play the whole season, though, which kind of makes it tough. And we haven't really seen his full effectiveness without AB. He had some games, but again, he was injured for a lot of it. So I put forward Odell and Jarvis.
Joey, I think we should start by supporting the candidate that we both agree on here. And we haven't talked about this, but I know who it's going to be. And why don't you go first, supporting the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in the AFC North?
Ooh. Well, I think the clear-cut number one wide receiver in the AFC North is Jarvis Landry. But I think the second wide
No,
receiver...
let's support. Let's start with that one. Talk
Okay.
about Jarvis.
Yeah, Jarvis. He's the heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns. From what would be considered the number 2 position on his depth chart, totally outperformed Odell Beckham Jr. Not only statistically, but in the way that he affects the game. The game plan has to go through him as far as the passing game goes. Like, he sets the tone for the team. He's a locker room leader. He's fantastic. He's everything for that offense. Nick Chubb is a quiet guy, and he likes to let his actions speak for himself, and that's awesome. But Jarvis Landry's the vet on that offense and a leader for the Browns and the most productive receiver in the division.
All right, you didn't give enough numbers, so I'm going to give just 2 more numbers before I go into the moments. Jarvis Landry, 83 catches, 2/3 of those went for first downs. Not a guy known for catching necessarily deep passes. He's breaking tackles. He's elusive. He gets to the sticks. And that's his heart. That's his athleticism. That's his technique. He had 0 fumbles, and he had 6 touchdowns. Now let me tell you why a guy like Joey is going to pick Jarvis Landry. Guess who had 170 yards receiving is against the Ravens this year? Jarvis Landry. You want to talk about one of the best plays of the year to watch? Jarvis Landry finds a soft spot in the Ravens zone on a crossing route. Baker Mayfield hits him. 3 Ravens secondary guys try to tackle him. One I can't really see in the replay because he falls to the ground immediately underneath a pile of mess.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry's not known for yards after contact, but
the next one is Marlon Humphrey, who gives about the weakest ass effort at a one-arm tackle I've ever seen as he runs by Jarvis Landry, who just shrugs it off as though a stiff breeze just blew his bangs out of his eyes. Then Tony Jefferson gives him the full-blown missile shoulder, bounces right off of it, then he's down the sideline. What you guys are going to remember about this play is that after a series of blocks, Jarvis Landry has to tackle himself. That's the only reason he didn't have 7 touchdowns this year. He tackled himself on this catch. It was like a 60-yard gain. Later in that game, I think because of the embarrassment of that play, Baker Mayfield gives a shovel pass to Jarvis Landry, who swings it out to the left. Kennedy, what's his first name? What's that guy's first name? Maurice Kennedy.
Crazy old Maurice.
Pretends that he thinks it's like an option play and runs away from Jarvis Landry. He actually sprints away from Jarvis Landry so he doesn't have to embarrass himself. He's like, I'm just going to get off the camera as quick as possible and let Jarvis Landry go as far as he can away from me. This guy's awesome. He's an awesome, awesome player. Now, that secondary wasn't at full strength in that game against... actually, yeah, it was. No, they didn't have Peters yet. But it doesn't matter. Peters isn't the tackler. They couldn't tackle this guy. He's an awesome player. And watching him before the catch, after the catch, blocking for the run, blocking other people for the catch. He's just a great player to have on your team, and the Browns should be happy to have him. And the AFC North should be happy we have him.
The AFC North should also be happy that we have the wide receiver that had more catches, more yards, and more touchdowns than Odell Beckham Jr. with significantly lesser quarterbacks, Tyler Boyd.
So here's my thing. I don't know. So here's my thing with Tyler Boyd is that I give Tyler Boyd a lot of credit, and I actually on my depth chart style kind of thing put him as the number 3 receiver. But the thing with Jarvis is that he had to split receptions, carries, whatever, with Odell, who again got over 1,000 yards this season. So the fact that Jarvis was able to produce on a team with Odell, who he split those with, whereas Tyler Boyd was the main target, the number 1 guy, and Jarvis still outperformed him, that's why Tyler Boyd fell on my list.
Here's my counter argument to that, is that Odell Beckham Jr. benefited from Jarvis Landry getting attention, where Tyler Boyd did not have the benefit of another elite pass catcher around him. Like Tyler Boyd gets the focus of the defense in the passing game.
Before you reply, Justin, let's just be clear here. Neither Joey nor I think Odell Beckham Jr. are in the top 2 receivers. We're talking about Jarvis Landry being number 1 and Tyler Boyd being better this year than
just
OBJ.
This season. And not
Just
even
this season.
Yeah, like
Right. So, I guess I'll rebuttal with my, having Jarvis and Odell both as like the number 1 and number 2, as that the majority of Odell's like misses, number 1, were due to, well, that's kind of subjective as whether or not you think it was due to injury or not. But also Baker completely like overthrowing and missing Odell was like a huge problem all year. So if you put a more accurate quarterback into place or someone that's able to make those decisions better, I think that Odell Beckham performs at a higher level.
Like Ryan Finley?
I mean, how many games did Ryan Finley play, and what was Tyler Boyd producing there in those games? Let's look that up.
Ryan Finley had to have played like 6 games at least.
Right. All right. So that fine.
I mean, just if you take names away, if you take names and teams away, they're very, very close to each other in all statistics. All right. But you've got 90 catches to 74, 1046 to 1035 in yards, 5 touchdowns to 4 touchdowns. Like, just a better year.
So my last thing that I'll bring up is that when you're building like a roster that's like an all roster, and again, I did mine in like a depth chart kind of style. If you're going to put together that, you need a guy that's going to be that fast downfield go route kind of guy. And I feel like Odell would surpass Tyler Boyd in that. And I feel like an offense would be better and more well-rounded. So I did a 3 wide receiver set with Jarvis and Tyler, but Odell being like your number 1 or you're like your go guy, right? And that's how I felt that it rounded out best. But I don't disagree with you. Completely. Only a little bit.
While I sort of cast a vote here to help us move on, I feel like the moments again matter, and I feel like when we talked this season, Odell Beckham Jr. didn't provide winning moments. Like, if you want to talk about like the best moment of Odell Beckham's season, it was like his first target. Week 1, Tennessee, they throw deep down the sideline. He makes a one-handed catch. As the Steve Miller Band would say, or Tom Petty would say, the future is wide open. Like, you're just feeling so good. You're like, oh my God, he's going to do that like, what? Wait, calculations. 100 times this year. He's going to have 4,000 yards, and he didn't. That was his best moment. Tyler Boyd, on the other hand, for a team that had no targets, no quarterback, A.J. Green's injured, Auden Tate's getting injured, Alex Erickson is starting on the other side of him at points this year. He's supposed to be a slot receiver, but he's playing on the outside. He converted a touchdown drive by himself against one of the top 4 defenses in the league in the Steelers, and I'll walk you back through it. But first, I'll walk you back through it. So he runs up the middle, and in one-on-one coverage against Terrell Edmonds, he makes a one-handed catch while he's being pass interfered against for like a 40-yard gain up the middle of the field. And then 2 plays later, in one-on-one coverage against Joe Hayden, who I'm pretty sure we're going to at least talk a little bit about later in this podcast, he embarrasses him. He embarrasses him in one-on-one coverage and scores a touchdown with Ryan Finley at quarterback. In 2 plays, he basically has a 70-yard drive for a touchdown by himself. This guy is a winner, and he proved that he's a number 1 wide receiver this year. I think OBJ is going to have a better career. I think we're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame for this guy. I think in 2019, our starting 2 wide receivers for now, we'll see if we get to a 3 wide receiver set. We might. Tyler Boyd and Jarvis Landry.
I see where you're coming from, and I agree with you. Obviously, I'm outnumbered because the both of you disagree with me. I will just say that I built my all team as though it was like a roster, and I needed a go guy as a one, right? Because that's usually who your one is, and that's why I put Odell there. So,
Yep.
That's
And
even though I
fair.
don't think is
that's
the
where
best,
we differed. It was philosophical and
You're
right?
going to have a great
theoretical.
case because we're going to get to that 11th guy and we're going to have to decide on our formation. I think OBJ is going to have a very strong case.
So let's move forward then. So we did at least two wide receivers. So let's move on to offensive line type stuff, which
Yeah.
try not to fall asleep, everybody. But
We don't need to hyper analyze some of this stuff. I
no.
know for me, I use the old analytics department on this one. So
Going
Yeah.
with the gut.
that's
So
right.
I'll start out by saying that I have three Ravens. So I have Yonda, I have Orlando Brown, and I have Ronnie Stanley. I put two Browns on there for a couple of reasons, but to sum it up, I'm a little bit of a homer. But I put Joel Batonio and J.C. Treader, obviously, because I felt like they needed to be there, and I feel like they're undercredited and underappreciated because they have three other guys around them that are just so mishmashed, switching around all season, aren't capable of getting things done. But I think that they've been able to get their job done at least. And I think they're the best in their position. But like I said to you guys in a text earlier, I think offensive line is difficult to kind of piece apart as individual people because they are such a unit that really blends together and works as the most team-centered unit. So if I had to pick a single unit, I would just say the Ravens, and I think that's almost objectively unquestionable. But that's how I broke down those positions.
May I jump in at this point, Joey?
Yeah, well, sure.
So I'm going to jump in specifically because my 5 linemen are the exact same as Justin's. And so I'm going to say it's left tackle Ronnie Stanley,
Yep.
left guard Joel Batonio, center JC Treader. Now, Joel Batonio and JC Treader are the Browns, Ronnie Stanley, the Ravens. Right guard Marshall Yonda of the Ravens. And that was a late season change for me because I think David DeCastro was having a killer year. And he's younger and he pulls more than Marshall Yonda, and they're very similar players. But the Steelers line collapsed for the last 3 games. They couldn't cover the blitzes, and I think that's almost a quarter of the season that they basically blew it 3 weeks in a row. Um, so Marshall Yonda, right guard, and right tackle Orlando Brown Jr. And just to expand a touch, Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. He's a first team All Pro, and then to lump Orlando Brown in with him, I think the tackles for the Ravens have like a really crazy tough job with Lamar Jackson. They have to understand a quarterback that's like really unpredictable and athletic, and he might bail them out a lot, but he's also doing a lot of maneuvering,
Yeah.
and they have to be guarding and blocking the most talented athletic defenders that are chasing him, and they really did a good job of it. So I think Ronnie Stanley and Orlando Brown for the Ravens they're the best tackles in the AFC North. And I know Roddy's going to be pleased that I didn't nominate Matt Filer, but I think until the end of the year Matt Filer actually had a really nice season. And for a guy that went undrafted, I think it's unquestioned that the Steelers continue to bring really good linemen out of basically the nether regions. They're good at it. Probably not the best choice of regions. Uh, and the reason that I picked J.C. Treader, center for the Browns, and Joel Batonio, left guard for the Browns, and Joel Batonio was a second team All Pro, so this is a guy that's recognized as a really great lineman.
He was all pro last year, and
Yeah,
Pro Bowl.
nice. Is that I think that especially in the second half of the year, when you saw Nick Chubb start to go buck wild, it was a lot of times on these cut back runs in between, like right off of Joel Batonio to the left side. And he had, his big run that I described against the Ravens was down the right sideline, but a lot of his biggest runs, and this is from the stats department, I'll admit it, I don't have numbers, but they ran so well to the left side, especially over the second half of the year when they really started to get an identity and Kareem Hunt was in the offense and everything. Like Nick Chubb, left side, it was a winner. And those two have chemistry and they're both great. And if Matt Skura had played a full year, maybe he's in this. If Marquise Pouncey could snap the ball to his quarterback, maybe he's in it. But it turns out that's a big part of the job, Marquise. Uh, you know, Defending Your Guy on the Street Award, Marquise Pouncey. Center of the AFC North Award, J.C. Treader. I'll turn it over to you on that one.
I agree on all fronts. I think we agree across the board. I had Ronnie Stanley, Orlando Zeus Brown Jr., Joel Bitonio, Marshall Yonda, and J.C. Treader. And my, I think J.C. Treader is probably like the dark horse, like bigger surprise of the group. But going into the season, we talked a lot about how bad the Browns' offensive line was going to be. And, I mean, as the center, J.C. Treader anchored that thing, man. And it's probably safe to say that Baker was responsible for maybe more pressure than Treader and Bitonio. So, perfect pour.
For sure.
That's some nice head.
That is. There you go. There you go. So let's. Do you guys want to do quarterback before we do the last spot? Because I think one can determine the other, kind of a thing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The all AFC North quarterback is Lamar Jackson, and it's not even close.
Joey, I'm gonna go make a sandwich. How much time do you need to do this?
To come to completion. I mean, we don't even really need to talk about it. Enough's been said over the whole season. Yeah, it's Lamar, man.
Right, Lamar Jackson, which brings up our 11th position, but I think that they're contingent upon one another. So I have this like lukewarm, mildly warm, like we're talking like warm to the touch kind of take.
Oh, I'll bring it right back to you, but I just want to give Lamar one moment. I want to give him because like, look, of all the players we're going to talk about this whole time, we're going to go long. It's going to be awesome. Lamar Jackson had like a 12-minute highlight reel of moments this year that are absurd. He had like a Michael Vick career highlight reel of moments. I want to talk about one of them. It was the moment that I knew, even though I was going to continue to come on this podcast and talk about ways to defend Lamar, that we're all fucked. And I try not to use language like that often, but that's the way it was. And it's the first game, Week 6, Steelers-Ravens. Our best defender, a guy we're going to talk about, finally gets Lamar pinned on the sideline, left side of the sideline. Lamar's trying to sweep outside. The man's name's T.J. Watt. Somehow T.J. Watt closes on him. He's got maybe just enough speed at that moment to get there. And Lamar Jackson stiff arms him. He stiff armed T.J. Watt with those tiny little arms. He's strong too. What is the deal with this guy? I can't take it. See, I think it was his only stiff arm all year. He saved it. He saved it for hopeful, probable not, Defensive Player of the Year T.J. Watt. But, I mean, you just can't tackle him unless you're Josh Tupou. You can't tackle this guy. You just can't do it. And so when he stiff-armed T.J. Watt, I just knew it was just we're just all in big trouble. We're in big trouble now. We're in big trouble until he gets into a dirt bike accident or a rollerblading crash or something. I mean, this is bad. Sorry, Justin. I just had to talk about that.
That's all right. So I was going to say how like one position dictates the other. I think that were we to kind of swing to a 3 wide receiver set, which I don't think we are at this point, I honestly would say, and I think there's a strong case for saying that Andy Dalton could be a better starter because Andy Dalton threw for more yards than Lamar Jackson in like 6 less
How
games.
How fucking dare you?
Right? And is a more polished pocket passer. And if he's been the beneficiary of the offensive line that we've put in front of him, I think that in the 3 wide receiver set, Andy Dalton might be able to put something out. Look, we got to give the Bengals some love, guys.
No, man,
right?
We gave the Bengals some love. All right. The Bengals were 2-14 this year. All right.
I'm trying. Man.
Enough.
All right. Anyway,
Tyler
so
Boyd is the only Bengals offensive player that we're going to talk about.
We talked about Eifert and Mixon too.
Yeah, we did. But I mean, in terms of first team nominations.
Yeah.
Right.
But Justin, actually, thank you for doing that. because that was wonderful. That was that was really awesome. So, 11th guy. Formations. Who's the 11th guy? How do you turn this offense into an offense that's somehow better than the actual offense that the Ravens put out there this year? Joey, why don't you start? Because you're the fan of the quarterback who basically is the face of the offense.
All right. I'm going to tell you who would fit the Lamar Jackson offense best first, and then I'm going to tell you my actual pick. So, the person who would best fit this offense would probably be Patrick Ricard. He's the only legitimate fullback in the division. And if you're going to run for 200 yards a game, pass for 200 yards a game, you're going to have him out there. Or a second tight end, which we kind of already talked about tight ends. The person that I had in here, and I called it a flex, and Roddy can suck it because it is a flex, because this guy can play in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can do a lot of things for your team. It's Kareem Hunt. I've been blowing Kareem Hunt since the week he came back. What he did to change the Browns' offense, even though the record didn't bear out results. Yeah, he's fantastic, man. And whoever the Browns hire is going to have Kareem Hunt at his disposal. Hopefully, if the Browns are smart, they'll re-sign him. If not, I do think he made himself some money this year if he goes somewhere else. Yeah. But he's incredible. He's fantastic. It's easy to forget because he was gone for so long. I mean, Kareem Hunt might be the most talented running back in the division.
He's your running back, Justin.
Yeah, so I think that without going too deep into things like off-season contracts and where he might go and stuff, the Browns would be crazy not to find a way to sign him. They have like $30 million in cap space, and but Kareem Hunt also is in line to get fucking paid because he has been officially NFL style absolved, right? Like it's over. I mean, right? Let's be real.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's interesting how that'll play out. I can only hope for the best, obviously, as a Browns fan. That being said, yeah, I think because if you're going to have Nick Chubb, who is like that kind of bam-bam guy, that north-south runner, right? It's good to have someone that's a little versatile on the other side of him with Kareem Hunt, someone that can be an up-the-middle runner, but also is a good, reliable pass-catching back. Yeah, I think the idea that he's the best running back in the AFC North is something that might be overlooked because he missed like 8 games this season and he had to play behind Nick Chubb. But don't forget that first season he had with the Chiefs that was like 15 yards rushing alone and then like another like 700 yards catching. Or I'll pull him up later. But yeah, like don't forget that. You know, he's overwhelmingly talented. And we've seen how when they line up in a 2 running back formation, how successful they were. It's a mystery why they didn't do it more. But, you know. All right, go ahead, Jed.
I, for some reason, got caught up watching Carlos Dunlap highlights and forgot to pull up stats for my 11th guys or even pick one. But I had 3 written down. We didn't mention his name, but I'm going to say him, even though it's not my... If we went 2 tight ends, I think Nick Boyle has to be the guy. He's the best blocking tight end, in my opinion, on the Ravens, and he would be a good fit. But he actually had 31 catches for 300-plus yards this year and had first downs on almost half of those, which is basically in a check down role. So, you know, he was serviceable in that regard while being an excellent blocking tight end. But I think I was leaning towards Kareem Hunt because not only is he an excellent blocker in pass protection, but he showed chemistry in the backfield with Nick Chubb. And, man, I meant to write down moments for all these guys that I nominated. I didn't for Kareem Hunt. But how about this? Go to NFL Game Pass. I'll give you my sign-on, listeners. Not on this podcast, but find me privately. And look up any game after week 8. Find a third down that the Browns converted. It's because Kareem Hunt is a badass wide receiver out of the backfield. Like, he killed it. The second game against the Steelers, No, it was the first game against the Steelers. They had their first 3rd and long, and I was like, okay, pay attention to Kareem Hunt, but you can't pay too much attention because the great wide receivers. But seriously, pay all the attention to Kareem Hunt. And they did, and he catches like a contested catch for a 12-yard gain. It's like, dang it. Like, he's just really good. I really think he complements this offense. I think, he only played half the season. Justin, if you wanted to make a passionate, just, I guess, case again for OBJ here, I could see it, and I could go that way too. But I'm leaning towards Kareem Hunt as the last guy on this offense. Run a little 12 personnel and go get him.
Yep. So is that a clean sweep for Kareem Hunt?
Well, Justin just likes Kareem Hunt. I don't know if he actually wanted him to be the 11th guy.
I think that if you're going to have Lamar Jackson as your starter, the 2 running backs is good. I like the Patrick Ricard idea, but with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, yeah, I think they're both just so incredibly versatile that, yeah, it'd be pretty.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt is a serviceable blocker, and let's be honest, Patrick Ricard is window dressing. Lamar Jackson doesn't need Patrick Ricard.
No.
It's just fun to watch him kill people.
Yeah.
Right.
But, I mean, this offense, like, if you look at the best rushing offenses in the league, they all use fullbacks. Except for maybe Tennessee. I don't know if they use a fullback. Their running back is a fullback.
Yeah. I like Patrick Ricard. I could have been swung that way, too. That's part of the reason I didn't pick a guy here, but I like Kareem Hunt. Are we good?
Yeah.
Good on Kareem?
Yeah, that's fine.
So here's your offensive lineup. Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, Mark Andrews, Jarvis Landry, Tyler Boyd, Kareem Hunt, Ronnie Stanley, Joel Bitonio, J.C. Treader, Marshall Yonda, Orlando Brown Jr.
Zeus.
There's your all AFC North offense.
Joe Thomas actually said the best tackle in the league right now and most underrated is Orlando Brown.
He's
really good. He's been getting a lot better, and
yeah, he said he's like super underrated and probably the best in the league right now.
He's got a really good bond with Lamar too. They have lockers right next to each other, and they're both young guys.
Do they make friendship bracelets?
Probably.
But do they knit friendship bracelets?
They can have friendship rings in a month here.
All right. Hey, look. So.
Well played.
Oh, I see what you did there. So, as far as everything goes right now, I have enough steam to go through an entire defense. Or do you guys want to keep going, or do you want to push that off until another time?
I kind of want to do it.
Let's make it happen.
I got the steam. I'm good.
Yes, I got no baby, no wife. People on Facebook can find us. People on podcasts. Tell you what, if you're at work right now and you're like, "Whoa, that was so much fun," pause it, come back tomorrow at lunch or for your commute, and listen to our defense. Or listen right now for yourself another Belgian triple.
For those of you that only work for an hour and a half.
I said lunch.
Work for any amount of time longer than that, we have more for you. So let's roll into defense, guys.
This is going to be tricky.
So I would like to lead this. So what I did when I built, because we had a discussion about positions and weirdness like that, I went by the position groups that the NFL structured their all-pro team in and the number of guys in each position group. So it's a little bit different than I did take a look at how Justin did his. And so we can kind of do it on the fly.
Okay.
Do you want me to just lead it and we'll kind of mishmash from that?
This is going to be a shit show. So let's start. I think we should go one player at a time.
True, but let's start with one thing first.
So it's all groups. But
right. So let's start with one thing. Based off of your guys' lineup, did you choose a 4-3 style or a 3-4 style, or you didn't really kind of base around that?
So I didn't pick this as like a theoretical team of
Okay.
guys and having to play any specific
Right.
formation. I just picked good guys. So the
Okay.
NFL breaks
Mine
it
would have
down.
ended up as a nickel, but
So that
sort of a big nickel.
A big old nickel.
It'll be a big nickel, Buffalo nickel.
Yeah.
mine's not. Mine's a 4-3.
Well, let's start with defensive line and put a 4.
So I'll
For
just
now.
tell you. So
And
the
see who
NFL
we
does it. They did edge, 2 guys.
Okay.
Interior line, 2 guys. Linebacker, 3 guys. Corner, 2. Safety, 2. And then they did this like DB thing. We can leave that shit out. That's whack.
Right. That's actually how I built mine. So we'll just roll with that. And even though mine, like looking at it even, and when I wrote it, I understand that some of it doesn't necessarily make sense. Like
Yeah, I
have
looked at yours. We're
TJ
gonna
Watt
fight.
as a linebacker, but I have a 4 front defensive line, but still.
Yeah, we gonna fight.
So
All right. My team's
Right.
going to be the best, but I'm going to get kind of railroaded here, and that's fine. So let's do it. Lead on. Defensive line.
Edge
Edge?
guys,
okay.
which is
So,
defensive line.
Right. So edge guys. So mine is. I think your guys are going to be a little bit different based off of what we kind of had on conversations earlier. But my edges are Myles Garrett and Carlos Dunlap. And the reason why I picked Carlos Dunlap on the left is because. Oh well, the reason why I picked Carlos Dunlap is because I looked at left-right. Myles Garrett is a right edge, and it's one of those things where everybody isn't as versatile that you can just take them from the right and put them on the left, and they're just as good, right? So Carlos Dunlap is a left guy, and he was the best left that I could find in the league. So
Before
I'm
Chad
sorry, in the AFC
goes,
North.
my 2
No,
edge
you
guys,
go
and
first.
I think that this one is the toughest one, because I think defensively this is like the strongest position group in the division.
No, yeah.
Edge rushers. I mean, you could go through, but my 2 are T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. Even with missing 6 games, I was tempted. I mean, you could. Oh, go ahead, Chad. We'll talk about who else you
No.
could go with.
No, talk about him a
You
little
could
bit.
go Bud Dupree, you could go Matt Judon, you could go Carlos Dunlap. But the way that Myles Garrett changes, Garrett and Watt are the same to me. In like, not only did they produce, Myles Garrett was still second, I think, in the division in sacks,
Yeah, he missed like 6 games.
and he missed 6 games. So he was like a half sack sandwich between. I think T.J. Watt had like a half sack more, and Judon or Dupree had like a half sack less. They were all bunched up there. So Garrett and Watt are my edge guys.
Just to clarify, the bunch. TJ Watt had 14.5. Bud Dupree had 11.5. And Matt Judon had 9.5. And I didn't even count Garrett. Now, some of that is homerism probably, but he was suspended for the year. So I'm probably going to get outvoted in this. But I just didn't put him in. Like, I didn't put him in. He did like an assaulty thing. He got suspended for the year. I just like didn't think that merited all team. I just didn't think it. He's obviously an awesome player. This to me is like an OBJ situation. He's probably, arguably, the best player in the division, regardless of position. Like, no one's going to debate that. He's super great, and his poems, a little amateur. But whatever, that's not important. And that's a little bit of a jab on my part, because I don't even know any of his poems. Honestly, I think Myles Garrett is great in every single way, including his video about loving dinosaurs, until he tried to kill a guy. You know? It's just like a bummer. So we all agree on TJ Watt.
Well,
I didn't have a...
I did not
You
put
don't?
TJ Watt as an edge guy because he is billed as a linebacker, so I put him in my linebacker group. And what
Yeah,
I figured is having a 5 package kind of a thing where he's a blitzer, right? Like or something like that. Like, I don't know. But because guys like you said, Dupree, Watt, and Judon are billed as linebackers, whereas Dunlap and Garrett are billed as defensive ends, that's why I built it that way.
Yeah,
So
and that's a fair point, and I think it's going to cost me a guy later in this, probably. But I just did O linebacker edge. I didn't pay attention to how Pro Bowl does it because Pro Bowl's for fucking losers because nobody cares about it.
I watch
Um,
it. I mean,
All pro, all pro.
all Pro's great, so I should have paid more attention to that. But like the reality is these guys don't cover much, so OLB edge was all the same to me.
fair.
And
Yeah,
I
fair. Totally fair.
unfortunately actually tonight moved Carlos Dunlap from my D line to edge after rewatching his highlights because he's clearly an edge. Like he does the same thing as TJ Watt 80% of the time. Um, I'm gonna make my case for Bud Dupree real quick. And then I'm gonna acknowledge that Myles Garrett's probably gonna win because I'm gonna get outvoted, unfortunately. He had 68 total tackles to Carlos Dunlap's 63, 16 for loss to Dunlap's 13, 11 and a half sacks to Dunlap's 9, 4 forced fumbles to Dunlap's 2. Dunlap out pass defensed him. Moments. I watched some Bud Dupree highlights because I'll be honest, I didn't have one in the top of my head. Bud Dupree came off the right side of the Steelers' defense, which would be the left side of the offense. So, speaking in offensive terms, if you run to the right, you oftentimes will leave that left guy open because you're running away from them. You cannot do this against Bud Dupree. I can't emphasize. Bud Dupree turns the corner like a unicycle or something that has no wheelbase. Like he just turns the corner
No
so
diff.
fast. You just can't run away from him. He tackles runners behind the line of scrimmage every time you leave him unblocked like that. Like he's just too good at it. And to get specific, his athleticism and speed, it all came out against Arizona. Kyler Murray at one point in the red zone tried to run a sweep to the left to score. And Bud Dupree tracked him, and he realized it, and he tried to fake a cut inside, and Bud Dupree got into form, stopped, and then Kyler continued on to try to outrun him because, for anyone that's wondering, Kyler Murray is the best QB athlete outside of Lamar Jackson, and he's really fast. Bud Dupree sacked his ass. He chased him down, and he dragged him to the ground. And it was an awesome play. And later in the game, Bud Dupree ran around the edge on a pass play that Kyler Murray had a deep drop, and he dragged the tackle way up the field because that's Bud Dupree's big move on a pass rush is he wants to get around that corner and use his speed. He gave the tackle a two-arm shiver, knocked him, and as Kyler Murray stepped in the pocket, he just cut inside and sacked him. Bud Dupree has developed a pass rush game that matches his run defense game that is just truly excellent. And if he can keep it going, it may be the Steelers, it may be another team. He is an elite outside linebacker in the mold. He has to do it for 10 more years at least of a guy like Suggs who could set the edge in the run game and become a sack artist at the same time. Excellent year, and he didn't assault anybody.
So I think we'll go with Garrett and Watt.
Motherfuckers. Joey, are you gonna submit to this horseshit?
Yeah, I already told you. Garrett and Watt's what I had.
Yeah,
So-
but you can change your mind. You're allowed to be.
We still have a
swayed.
full linebacker core to discuss, man. It's okay.
Well, no, Bud Dupree's not a linebacker. He's an edge guy.
He's
There are no
built as a
outside
linebacker,
linebackers worth. I'm gonna just shut this whole thing down. Okay.
Okay,
So
well,
who's
let's
the
talk
other one
about
besides
tackles.
Myles Garrett?
TJ Watt.
Yeah. Oh, and for the record, just to talk about TJ Watt briefly, because he's like my look, he's my Steeler. I know, but I mean, he's great. I'm not gonna say about one play, but Pat Tillman, what's his name? What was his first name? Tillman.
Charles.
Charles. Sorry. Charles Tillman. Peanut Punch. I wanted to use a P first name there. If he's got his own move, TJ Watt's got to move after this season. And I'm calling it the TJ Purse snatch. He sacks the quarterback at chest level in the bear hug. He brings his arms in, and as he falls to the ground, crushing him, he just takes the ball out of his hands.
Penalty.
It's called the TJ Purse snatch. He did it at least 3 times this year because he had 14.5 sacks and 8 forced fumbles and 4 fumble recoveries. Most of those were taking the ball out of the quarterback's hands and holding it as he sacked him. TJ Watt is awesome.
Sounds like a rule loophole that needs to be closed because you're not allowed to land on a quarterback with all your weight. So
you're not allowed to land on a quarterback who's thrown the ball with all your weight.
No, even if they have the ball, you can't land on them with all your weight.
Nah,
you can't drive them into the ground, TJ Watt. You can't crush them.
He doesn't weigh enough to crush anybody. Let me exaggerate.
What?
Let me exaggerate. TJ Watt, defensive player of the year.
Yeah, you'll have your TJ Watt slobber time later. Moving on to go ahead.
Tackles.
Interior linemen.
Tackles. Interior linemen. Yep.
Start us off, Justin.
Sure. So I actually had a just like very last minute. By last minute, I mean like within the last 10 seconds. You can count them 987, whatever. But so my 2 guys, because that's kind of the scheme that we're going with, were Cameron Hayward, which I think is an objective, unquestionable number 1 defensive tackle. Like, I mean, not even just in the AFC North, in the entire league. But my number 2, I just switched just now after I looked up their stats again, is going to be Larry Ogunjobi, actually. Statistically, he's got like 3 more tackles and like 2 more QB hits overall. So
then who?
Then Geno Atkins. That was going to be my other guy. But again, I'm trying to show the Bengals some love, so that's why Geno Atkins.
Can you tell me those stats? Do you have them?
Yeah, hold on. So I'm
I didn't actually nominate him, so I don't even have him like in my perception.
So Ogunjobi has tackles. He has 50 solo. 50 combined, 35 solo, with 13 QB hits. And then Geno Atkins has 47 combined, 18 solo, with 10 QB hits.
Do you have sacks, pass defenses, forced fumbles, anything like that?
Sacks, Geno Atkins 4.5. Sacks, Larry Ogunjobi 5.5.
Okay, I have Geno Atkins, by the way. I have another Brown to consider here, so I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised. You caught me off guard, Justin. Larry Ogunjobi. Good name.
Ogunjobi. It's a fun name. You can't say it without a smile, as Joey said last season.
I can't. I'm still mad about Myles Garrett. I can't believe he's on this team.
Right, so I looked up Ogunjobi versus Richardson earlier, and it was like one of these things where I saw it, and I was just like, oh, yeah, Ogunjobi. But,
so you think that he's clearly better than Richardson?
Yeah, so Richardson has more tackles, but Ogunjobi has more sacks and QB hits, which if we're talking about an aggressive pass rush, I think that's kind of what that's how I feel is the more, I don't know, more fun.
My man
Plus,
Larry
when you got a
Ogunjobi
linebacker that I'm going to talk about here shortly, you got plenty of tackles coming from him. So, pass rush wise, Ogunjobi is what I picked.
I guess I'll turn it over.
Yeah, my man Larry Ogunjobi is also second in the division in tackles for loss.
Ooh.
How many?
Give me a sec.
I guess he's behind Cam Hayward, who had 11, or ahead.
Yeah, Cam Hayward has like double of everybody's numbers. Like
Cam Hayward,
fucking absurd.
By mine has 15.
Ogunjobi has 10.
Yep. And all the other guys that have more than him are edge guys.
Richardson tackle for loss 4.
Yeah, whack. So I also have Cam Hayward and Larry Ogunjobi.
All right, you guys gonna make any sells? I had plays to talk about for these other guys. This is lame.
That was my sell. Larry Ogunjobi, second in the division in tackles for loss by interior linemen. Who would have thought that? I feel like that's a dark horse guy.
Garrett and Ogunjobi, they're boys, man. They're boys. They got to play together.
I didn't take
They
that
feed
into
off each
account.
other.
All right. I did this differently, and I actually this is ironic. I had 3 interior linemen kind of in my team.
Beef.
Larry Ogunjobi was none of those 3 for me.
Brandon
Nobody's
Williams.
even considering changing their mind, which I thought with Myles Garrett would be at least plausible. But you guys both agree that Sheldon Richardson is worse than Larry Ogunjobi?
So again, total tackles, Richardson has like a bunch more, like more than a dozen more combined and solo. But if you have a strong enough linebacker core, then you can have an aggressive defensive front. If you have a weak linebacker core, you need a defensive front that's able to stop the tackle. So we're going under the presumption, in my opinion, that your linebackers are going to be able to make the tackles. So with that, the more aggressive defensive front is what I would see.
I'll make my case because Joey's not jumping in on real passionate grounds here. So I like Sheldon Richardson because I just thought that, and Justin's walking away as we discuss his own goddamn teammates. I can't even believe this guy. I'm not going to speak nicely about the Browns while he's gone. I'm going to talk about Javon Hargrave. I'm going to talk about Javon Hargrave.
He was my third guy.
He's my third guy. He's my third guy. 60 tackles, 7 for loss, 4 sacks, and a forced. I actually didn't remember a moment of his on my own. Shameful to say for a Steelers fan. I had to get back in the tape. His best game was against the Rams, which is meaningful. It's a meaningful thing because the Rams at the time, the Steelers, it was the middle of the season. They were underdogs in this game. And he had a sack forced fumble on Goff that was huge. And the best part about it, and this is why this play is critical to me, is because of his speed and strength from the nose tackle position. Javon Hargrave was running a stunt on this play where TJ Watt was going to cut into the middle and he was going to have the hole outside with his guard. He was so excited to run this stunt. He slipped. He slipped before the snap and he had to recover and pick it up before they snapped it. And then he still basically just leaned his shoulder into the guard and turned the corner. He just turned such a sharp corner and mashed TJ or Jared Goff as he threw it. It actually, you could make the argument it was an incomplete pass, but it was ruled a fumble, which Minkah Fitzpatrick returned for a touchdown. Critical play in the Rams game. But Javon Hargrave just combines like a level of speed and strength from the nose tackle position. You just don't see very often. He's certainly no Haloti Nada, but he's really good. I mean, he's really good in the speed strength combo department. And so that's why he was my third guy. And Justin walked away while I was going to talk about a Brown. So F it. I don't care about Sheldon Richardson. He can stay off the team.
He is. So there you go.
Good. All right, moving to linebacker. The NFL All-Pro team has 3 linebackers. Oh, so to clarify, interior linemen were Cam Hayward,
Hargrave, and Cam Hayward,
and Larry Ogunjobi, with honorable mention to Javon Hargrave because I had him third also.
You guys are lame.
3 linebackers. I'll start this time because I'm going to steal Justin's thunder. The number 1 linebacker in the AFC North is Joe Schobert.
With a close runner-up to Joe Schobert.
He was number 1 in tackles and interceptions amongst linebackers in the division. Funny enough, also very high in those categories is Nick Vigil, who I'm sure not very many people considered for all AFC North. And my other 2 guys were Devin Bush. He had 4 fumble recoveries. You know, he's always around the ball. You need a ball-hawking linebacker. And Mark Barron,
You got to
because
be kidding me.
he
I'm
has
a Steeler fan, and if Mark Barron ends up on this team, I will fucking leave.
mostly because I went off like name recognition, and
This is why your lineups are garbage.
I didn't want to put Nick Vigil on this team.
That's why you can't do 3 inside linebackers. This is trash. This is the flaw in what
Hey,
you guys are doing.
Take it up with
I'm
the
freaking
NFL,
out.
bro.
So
Okay, let me take a
all right.
deep breath. Make your Mark Barron
Yep.
case.
No, I have no case to make for Mark Barron. I just like
So-
him.
I put it up this way: Joe Schobert as middle linebacker, Joe Schobert as outside linebacker, and Joe Schobert as the other outside. No, anyways, Joe Schobert as middle linebacker, and my outside linebackers, both of them, because
Justin's
by
going to
position,
have a bunch of pass rushers, yeah.
right by position they are linebackers, Judon and Watt, right? So, but we've seen that as much as even though Joey would like to call Watt a quote unquote liability in the past game, he has been
Yes,
able to
This
defend
is
some.
facts.
Same with Judon. So yeah, man, I'm going with the triple G defense. All right, if you blitz enough, you can stop anything. All right, so but either
So
way,
for
that's
the-
what I had set up based on that. I will say that my number 2s to Watt and Judon were Dupree and Barron.
This is such a joke. Judon plays the same position as Dupree. He just didn't do it as well. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's why he's not an edge guy.
Right.
Dupree is an edge guy on my list, so
So
I knew we were going to run into this at some point.
Right, and this is. What
I didn't
makes it
call
really
Dupree a
difficult to call.
linebacker because he's not. He's an edge guy.
Judon is no more of a linebacker than Dupree. He's worse than Dupree in every way at the position that they play.
I
which is
agree.
the same.
I'm agreeing. You're yelling at the wrong person. I agree.
I'm yelling at everybody, including Roddy, just in case he's awake.
All right, state your case then, Chad. What you got?
My
One
case
person's
was that the
watching
only
this
position to
travesty of
discuss
stream.
the only position to discuss in this was middle linebacker. Edge and OLB are the same thing. You bring them out in coverage as a facade in the flat occasionally, that. And
Okay.
so middle linebacker is the position. Joe Schobert is the winner by a mile, and Devin Bush is worth discussing briefly. And just to celebrate, before I get angry some more, Joe Schobert, I want to give a moment. Joe Schobert, in my opinion's best game, or close to it, was their first game against the Steelers before it all turned into a mess of shit. Joe Schobert made, I think, I'm going with my gut stat department here, 48 tackles, 18 for loss, and he had 2 interceptions, both in zone coverage. One of them was a crap throw by whoever was quarterback, Duck or Mason. I don't even remember right now. What a mess. But the other one was great. He dropped super deep into coverage from initially a pretty shallow position. Wasn't really in position, and he made a great break on the ball for an interception. He had 2 interceptions against the Steelers, and he made 1 million tackles. He's a really good linebacker this year, and Joey and I will continue to make jokes about how he gets 9 of his 13 tackles 12 yards down the field. But the bottom line is he's a really smart player. He's a deceptively good athlete. He plays well in coverage. He plays well against the run. He's everything you could possibly want a middle linebacker to be. And if every division were to have an all-division team, they'd be hard-pressed to find a Joe Schobert for their defensive lineup.
He had 2 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. He's everywhere.
Look at Justin Peacocking over there. He's loving this.
Just saying. So obviously Joe Schobert as the middle guy. So look, when the Browns' new uniforms come out, I might just have to pick myself up a Joe Schobert jersey for all of you guys.
I hope you do, because
But-
he's probably not even going to be on the team next year.
I
'cause that's how
know, it's so
ridiculous they are.
fucking. I know. It's gonna be tough with Kareem and Schobert, but anyways, not this episode. But the contentious point is the linebackers, the outside linebackers. Again, outside linebacker and pass rush is, like you said, relatively synonymous. The reason why mine are the way they are is because I kind of stylized around a 4-3, which is Watt and Judon. So what are we gonna do for outside linebackers?
I think we already have at least one in TJ Watt on the team.
Well, yeah, he's already on the team. So Judon
So,
Dupree. Would you
I
guys
mean, I
disagree
would
with that?
vote him over Judon.
I
And
would
I could
vote in
vote
So me
Devin
too.
Bush and start him at outside linebacker
Over
with
Judon?
somebody. Yeah. Okay.
um
I already have pass rushers.
in your lineup, in your guys' form of this lineup, Devin Bush might make more sense. How many do we have
You need
without him?
someone to
One,
cover
two,
guys.
3, 4, 5. We have 5. So yeah, I would vote. I would accept Devin Bush over Dupree. Who is there? Any other suggestions? There's no other. Don't even talk about Mark Barron,
How
idiot. If you
about
say
Patrick
that, I'll
Onwasar?
slap you. What was that?
Patrick Onwasar. He actually had some really good stats this season.
Dude,
And
he
when I
couldn't
looked him
even
up, I was
play.
surprised.
He
All
wasn't
right.
even good enough to play on
Look.
his team.
All right. Anyways, so
All
what are
right.
you guys gonna say?
So do you
Bush
want to
over
do
Dupree?
2 linebackers and then do 5 DBs?
I had 5 DBs. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
So
So
Schobert
Schobert
and Bush.
Dupree or Bush.
That's how I would vote it, Bush.
That's fine.
Is that good?
Bush was awesome. I'll just
Yeah.
take like a brief second. I didn't think Bush was going to make this team, so I didn't go back through his highlights. But through his first probably half the season, he basically tied the NFL in leading turnovers. He had 4 fumble recoveries, like Joey said. He had 2 interceptions and a touchdown. So he's really opportunistic. The one thing I will say, basically, the way that this came out in the podcast was by lack of negative attention. Devin Bush started out the season as a real liability in coverage despite his athleticism. If you care about Pro Football Focus, he ended the season, especially the second half, as like one of the highest, if not the highest, middle linebackers at man-to-man coverage grades for Pro Football Focus. So he learned a little bit. He still has a ways to go in zone. He's going to be an awesome pick. He's hopefully the future of the Steelers defense with TJ Watt and Minka. But, you know, he's an unpolished diamond.
Guys at every level. All right. That wraps up our linebacker talk. Thank God.
Yeah.
Now to move to something a little more clear cut. So we'll do 3 corners and 2 safeties. Is that how we want to rock?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably fine.
All right.
Just want to do 3 safeties.
Let's move to cornerback. I mean, the Ravens kind of just mishmash everything together, but we'll do corners. Anybody want to volunteer to lead off corners?
Yeah, so I will volunteer to lead off. How about that?
Sounds good.
I'm gonna say my 3 corners. So I did in my like lineup kind of thing. I did 2 corners, 2 safeties. So
I already know what's about to happen, and I'm getting ready to flip off the fucking handle.
No, you're not. I have to pick one of my second string corners, and it's like such a clear-cut choice for me that it's just, I don't know, whatever. It breaks my heart because we talked about it a lot this season. I talked about it a lot during text strings about my frustrations and my fucking fury over Denzel Ward being unable to play a receiver without getting fucking DPI or like this egregious, basically, I don't know, defensive pass interference. So I don't know. I don't think he's gonna be able to pull that shit for much fucking longer, and he needs to clean his shit up. So the clear-cut winners in my case, and without question, are these 3: Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, and Joe Hayden. I don't even think it's a question. I think if you guys pick anyone other than those 3, you're pretty much brain dead, and you're going to be cut from the podcast. Go ahead and speak carefully.
Chad, go ahead, because I have a feeling I'm going to be playing tiebreaker.
No, it's all good.
For fear of being cut from the podcast, I am going to read my 3 choices unedited before Justin made his threats in order of their excellence. Marcus Peters and I just threw up a little bit in my mouth because I think he's a shit tackler and he's a piece of garbage, and he's not going to be on this team next year.
Wow.
Marlon Humphrey and Joe Hayden. And I didn't have a Marcus Peters moment because I think I just happened to not watch either of the Ravens games that he had the interception returns for touchdowns, so I don't remember them. My Marlon Humphrey moment was, and I like to do division moments if I had them because it hurts one of us and it feels good. But Marlon Humphrey's punch on Juju in overtime of that game, it was huge. I mean, it was a huge play. He got beat. He had been beat for a touchdown earlier in that game, physically beaten. He had been beaten physically with speed and strength. Long touchdown, crossing route. Juju embarrassed him. He came back. He went for it again, and he won the play when it mattered most. He's just an awesome player. He's a really good player. You just want to have him on your team. He's physical. He gets a lot of penalties, but you'll take him. You'll take him because he gambles at the right times, and he comes out ahead in the end. He's like a really good gambler, like he lost that touchdown to Juju. He gets the penalties, but he comes out ahead. He always comes out ahead. You got to love that about him. And Joe Hayden, deceptive.
To interject, Sean and Jenna, both from Facebook, like your shirt, and I just want to say, look, for the All AFC North awards, it's the only appropriate shirt that's being worn today. It's an awards ceremony, guys, right?
That's what I'm saying.
But you're getting a lot of love for your shirt, Chad.
Thank you. Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden is a guy that I was hesitant to nominate, but he was clearly the best Steeler, so I went through his stats and I kind of looked at him.
His stats are enormous.
Well, his stats stand up, and I'm not going to bring him up too much, except for his 5 interceptions, which is a big deal because the Steelers hadn't had anyone with 5 interceptions for 100 years, and then both Minka and Joe did it this year, and it was rad. But I want to do my moments again here. In Week 13, Joe Hayden ended the second Browns game with a diving interception. It was a really bad Baker Mayfield throw. It was way off target. But that also meant that Joe Hayden had to readjust because he was following the route, which was going to the inside, and the throw was outside, and he dove to the left and made a catch to end a Browns comeback. End it. End the game. Week 14, Arizona, he does it again. He intercepts a desperation Kyler Murray heave to end a potential Arizona comeback in a game that was 23-17 at the time, a one-score game. But his best interception was actually earlier in that game. He had 3 interceptions over these 2 weeks. He was on the outside covering, I don't know, probably Christian Kirk. And he let him run deep, and he came off his man to cut off an out route from the slot receiver and dove forward, which is a crazy hard catch to make. He dove at the ball, cutting off the route to make an interception, I believe, in the second quarter. It was a crazy good catch. It was a crazy good play in terms of football intelligence. And it's the reason that Joe Hayden is the 3rd best cornerback in this division, but still worthy of being in the starting lineup of an all AFC North team.
I concur on all fronts. Marlon Humphrey. My moment for Marlon Humphrey is when everybody realized that Marlon Humphrey doesn't have to get ready because he fucking stays ready, and he choked out OBJ in that loss to the Browns. Marlon Humphrey's incredible. He had 3 fumble recoveries, took 2 of them back for touchdowns this year. Second in the division in passes defensed to Joe Hayden, who is my other guy, and then Marcus Peters. Even aside, the pick sixes aren't even the best play that he made this year. He had the one-handed interception against his old team and in prime time against the Rams. And he had the game-winning pass defense against the Buffalo Bills, and then he went into the stands in Buffalo to celebrate with Ravens fans and chugged a beer and took a fine from the league that Budweiser agreed to pay for him.
Nice.
That's pretty
So,
rad.
I
pretty
didn't know
rad.
Bud
It's
paid
great.
for it. Yeah.
And so, yeah, Marcus Peters. My love affair with Marcus Peters started the second that the Ravens traded for him. Everybody was telling me how much Marcus Peters is burnt toast, and he was able to come in and be something that wasn't a necessity to the Ravens, but could just emphasize what they wanted to do and amplify things, and he's been outstanding. All pro defensive back Marcus Peters.
Well, let's talk about some safeties then. So, with safeties, I guess being talked about, I'll kick it off. So the first one I think is probably pretty clear cut. Minka Fitzpatrick, pretty straightforward. This is one of the, as much as I've like divvied out my positions and rosters and tried to figure out like who's at what position and everything like that. This is the one that, I've done. Did not divvy out free safety versus strong safety because I just didn't. There were just not a lot of really competitive strong safeties that I saw on all of our teams. All of our teams had free safeties that were just balling out of this world. So, in my opinion, Minka Fitzpatrick and my other safety, Demarius Randall. All right, look, statistically, Demarius Randall overshot Earl Thomas by a lot. Okay, and Earl Thomas is supposed to be this 99 Madden overall, supposed to be the best there ever is, was, or could be, adding to the Ravens' defense. But Demarius Randall, I think, stood out, stands out, continues to stand out as the safety on the Browns' defense, even though he didn't play the entire season. Even though he had a couple games where he just stayed home for some mysterious reason that nobody knows about.
Hey, you know what's the opposite of your coach benching you for no apparent reason and
What's
not
that?
having you travel with the team? Being the fucking glue of your defense. And that is why Demarius Randall is not the second all-division safety, but it is, in fact, Chuck Clark, who can play in run support. He's an effective blitzer. He can cover an elite tight end. He can do everything for you. He can call the plays for your defense because Joe Schobert is too winded running back to the defensive huddle from making all the tackles in the backfield or running 40 yards downfield, about a yard and a half behind a tight end. Chuck Clark is the second all-division safety for the AFC North.
The only reason why I may concede to that is because it's hard to see statistically, and I hadn't I guess overwhelmingly looked at the footage of Chuck Clark on there, and since all the other guys I picked were all free safeties, it would be nice to kind of wrap it up with having a free safety and a strong safety.
It's my classic Chad Troy Polamalu. It's about the moments and the impact argument.
Yeah, it'd be better served if you actually talked about a play, so learn how to storytell. But no big deal. It's not like we're on the radio. And I did divide my positions from free safety to strong safety. Part of it was an effort to keep Earl Thomas off the team and to create debate. Doesn't seem like there's going to be that debate, which is fine. Earl Thomas is an excellent football player, so I know you're a listener, Earl. No offense intended. Just wanted to create some good
all
debate
of
here.
the offense intended.
All of the offense intended, Earl.
Earl, what kind of name is Earl,
the
anyways?
leader. At strong safety, I nominated Chuck Clark and one Sean Williams of the Cincinnati Bengals. Let me throw some statistics at you guys. I didn't want to be the numbers guy, but these are too good. Chuck Clark, 68 total tackles. Sean Williams, 112. Chuck Clark, 2 tackles for loss. Let me finish, Joey.
Okay.
Sean Williams, 5 tackles for loss. Chuck Clark, 1 sack. Good blitzer, Joey said. Sean Williams, one sack. Chuck Clark, 9 passes defensed. Sean Williams, 3. Chuck Clark, 1 interception. Sean Williams, 1 interception. And Chuck Clark, 2 forced fumbles to Sean Williams, 0. So I got really excited because I was like, okay, we've got to who's the smart guy that holds the defense together and makes everything work versus the guy who makes all the plays and does all the numbers and all that. And so I pulled up NFL reference stats, and I was like, okay, what was Sean Williams' best game? This is awesome. I did this tonight. This was such an awesome moment for me. I've got no wife, no kid to play with who I love and can't wait to play with, but this was a good
In case they're watching.
which they never
They're
will.
not.
But I'm
Yeah.
being honest. Like, I'm excited to see
We're
her,
2
but
hours deep in this thing.
the best game that Sean Williams played statistically was against the Dolphins. And I was like, this is perfect. This was the Bengals game. They played with so much heart and they barely lost, and this is wonderful. So I watched the highlights, 10 and a half minutes of highlights to see Sean Williams stand out. Nothing. Empty effing numbers. Chuck Clark.
Hell
Chuck
yeah.
Clark is my nominee for strong
My man.
safety of the AFC North. Sean Williams, you're an empty shell. I want you to improve next year because you will be the starting strong safety of the Cincinnati Bengals, and I will be watching you. Number 36, strong tackler, fun guy to watch, but I want you to make impact plays. I want those 112 tackles to matter.
Yeah.
Mattered. He held that defense together, as Joey said. He's a key guy. He took the green dot. He took the communication from the coaches. The defense would have been nothing compared to what it is without him doing it. They were bouncing around with that green dot. It really is a big deal. And for our lineup,
Especially
to have
from
a
the
guy
safety.
like him in it, it matters. Statistics aside, Chuck Clark is the guy.
Yeah, I think Sean Williams was second in the division in tackles, actually. Behind
Yeah,
Schobert.
he's all over the place.
Yeah.
He's actually more of a Joe Schobert than Joe Schobert, joke-wise. Like, if the running back gets a 10-yard gain and they need to be kind of tripped up, he's your guy. If the running back gets outside and is already running out of bounds, but needs to kind of be touched so that somebody gets credit,
Lassoed. Yeah.
Sean Williams is your guy. But Sean Williams is also, he makes good tackles. He blitzes. He's a good athlete. He just, they were a team that was terrible, and he just didn't make impact plays because they weren't there to be made. So next year I'll be watching out for him. I think he's an awesome player. I think he's better than, I nominated him over Terrell Edmonds. That's our strong safety, Steeler fans. So
Pretty straightforward. I think Micah Fitzpatrick and Chuck Clark went out for free and strong safety, respectively. So Brian seems to believe that Stephon Tuitt is one to discuss.
If he'd stayed healthy, I think he makes this team easily. But
Unfortunately, though, you only play 6 games. There's not much we can do for you. So
yeah, as a Steeler guy, I'm happy to just throw a little bone at Brian here. Look, Stephon Tuitt, Brian, we know this. He was the best player on the Steelers defense before he got hurt. So just get fucking excited, dude. Get excited. Javon Hargrave is going to walk in free agency, and that's going to be a bummer. But Stephon Tuitt's going to step in, and this defense is going to... I'm going to get my big head in here. The defense is going to get better. They're going to be better than they were this year. Get fired up, Brian. He's going to be the player of the year in the AFC North next year. Stephon Tuitt, torn pec and all.
So let's talk special teams. Let's wrap it up with some special team stuff. So I think kicker, probably unanimous across the board with Justin Tucker. Probably the GOAT as far as kickers go. But I did put an honorable mention to Austin Seibert.
Are you kidding me?
Fuck out of here.
Look, as a rookie goes, he did really well as far as field goal percentage and 3-point percentage.
Hey, this isn't rookie kicker of the year award.
But Justin Tucker is an unquestionable first.
Joey, give the actual
All right.
alternate nomination.
If you guys are ready, I am ready to talk about the kickers in this division because they are pretty exemplary. All right. However, basically, I feel like you can rank these kickers by field goal percentage. All right. So let me rank them for you. Justin Tucker, 96% field goal percentage. Chris Boswell, 93%.
Justin.
Randy Bullock, 87. Austin Seibert, 86. Also,
Joker.
Chris Boswell, the only kicker in the division that's 100% on extra points this year,
That's right.
which is worth noting. But the biggest thing, I have Tucker as first team. I mean, he's a legendary kicker. The AFC North has 4 of the top 6 kickers in the conference in field goal percentage.
It's a big deal, man.
It's pretty stellar.
Yeah, they were good. Only one thing needs to be said, and that's Justin, get Austin Seibert the fuck out of here. Chris Boswell is, if not the best kicker in this division, and he's not. Justin Tucker is. Justin Tucker.
What a rebound, though, man. Last year, like, Boswell looked like he was, like, going downhill. Looked like he might have been, like, out for the count or whatever. Like, he had such a bad year last year. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dude, percentages
Rebound
are
player of
fun
the
and they
year.
sound great, but look, Justin Tucker, 28 for 29.
Yeah.
Chris Boswell, 29 for 31.
Yep.
They both missed a field goal in the
So we're
40
saying
to
that the
50
Steelers
yard
were
range.
less capable of producing touchdowns, so they had to kick more field goals.
Yeah, and also that's why I didn't put Chris Bell as number 1 because he was perfect from extra points, but he only had to make 28, whereas
Yeah.
Justin Tucker made 57 of 59 points. So, like, look, Justin Tucker's the best. Austin Seibert's a joker. Chris Boswell's good. And here we go.
Brian talked about Greg Zerlian, but this is all AFC North.
Yeah, get with the program, Brian.
All
Brian,
AFC
what's the
North.
title of our podcast?
Get that NFC shit out of here.
Yeah.
I do
Not
like
even my fucking
Greg
podcast.
Zerline, though, has 2 of the best kicker nicknames ever. Greg the Leg,
Greg and Zerline?
Greg the Leg, and Legatron.
Yeah, you know what I like about Greg Zerline? The Rams tried to run a fake punt against the Steelers and it fucking sucked. That's what I like about Greg Zerline. Get out of here. Punter for the AFC North. Nominate
The
somebody.
Scottish fucking hammer.
Let me tell you,
Unquestionable. As
unquestionable.
unquestionable.
Let
He
me
was
tell you
ranked-
why you're wrong.
He was ranked above all other AFC North punters
In
as far
what?
as Pro Football Focus. Let me bring it up.
Touchback percentage at
put you in the link.
7.9.
I'll put you the link. What were you gonna say? Go ahead.
All right,
while I
here you
look this
go.
up.
The best punting average in the division belongs to Sam Cook. Also, Sam Cook's the only punter in the division that had greater than 50% of his punts down to inside the 20. So, Scottish Hammer, second in punt average, and had more touchbacks too. So, touchbacks are bad for punters. I don't know if you knew that. Not good
So are you
for
nominating
punters.
Sam Cook?
Yeah. He's the best. And he's rested.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, he's the Ravens guy. He punted like 4 times all year.
Right.
And he had crazy field position.
On a list of 36 punters, Sam Cook is not even on it.
Yeah, he's a joke.
Yeah, just because he didn't qualify, maybe. He's still better than some drunk asshole from Scotland.
No,
Drunk asshole is what I identify as. All right, so
no. This year I actually agree with Justin. Jamie Gillen was better than the Ravens punter, but I actually put Jordan Berry ahead of him, despite a bad last month of the season.
Yeah.
Despite that, Jordan Berry with 11 more punts, averaged a yard less, had way less touchback percentage. 5.4% to 7.9%. And His inside the 20 was not as good as Jamie Gillen. This is sort of to me, it's a toss-up. I think Jamie Gillen was actually really good.
The guy's a rugby player, guys. Come on.
Yeah, but he didn't make any freaking tackles, so who cares?
Oh, excuse me?
Yeah, you're excused.
Jamie Gilliam made some tackles.
Did he?
Good argument.
Let's look it up.
I almost remember one. Almost. I think Jordan Berry, with the offense the Steelers played on, you forgive his inside the 20 punt rate because they didn't drive the ball. So, he had a 45.5 average on 74 punts. Jamie Gillen had 46.4 on 63 punts. You can go either way to me. The Ravens punter, Sam, I thought it was Koch, whatever. It's Cook. Is that how they pronounce it?
It's Cook.
It's Cook?
Yeah.
Isn't it spelled Koch?
Yep.
Okay, tough guy. He's probably the best actual punter, but this is an OBJ situation. He just didn't have the best year. He just didn't. He didn't have to. He probably should get paid the most. He probably is the best. He's just not on this team because he didn't have to do the best job this year. So, I would say, Joey, while Justin looks up a meaningless tackle statistic that no one cares about because no one remembers even any tackles he made.
I'm trying to
I'm looking across all of the punters, and I can't find tackles. For whatever reason,
because they don't track that shit.
Yeah, I was about to say they don't track tackles.
You know who did have 5 tackles this year? Juju Smith-Schuster.
I would accept Jamie Gillen as Nick. I Barry, but I've had too much triple to make a really cohesive argument about why that makes any sense. I think Jamie Gillen might have been a little better.
And he's a Scottish fucking hammer, guys.
It is a sweet nickname.
If you don't make an argument quick, Joey, I'm just going to outvote you with Justin on this and pick Jamie Gillen.
Oh, I'm down with Jamie Gillen.
All right.
Lachlan Edwards was the leading punter in the league, or in the conference, in tackles with 2. So
maybe it's the preseason then.
Yeah, it was.
Ooh.
What's up?
I'm about to fuck you up. Sam Cook, 1 tackle. Still have yet to find the Scottish hammer.
I don't think he had one.
No, he had him. I guess it might have been during the preseason then, because there was 3 or 4 highlights of him making tackles, and I guess because I remember I was talking to Sam and I was showing her. But anyways,
that makes
it must
sense.
have been during
That's
the preseason.
about when you were highest on your team. So
yeah.
Oh, Jamie Gillen also had 1 tackle. So
nice.
There you go.
That was fun.
Greater than 0.
That was fun.
And it was good enough to get you AFC North Punter of the Year.
So, anyways, that's it. That's the AFC North, I guess, all AFC North team, right?
I can do kick returner and
returners
punt returner for you.
Oh, I didn't do that.
I can do it for you.
Brian is also asking us who we have in picks for the week.
Oh, we can do some of that too. It's already fucking midnight. I mean,
I was about to say it's already midnight.
No, Brian's trying to get some inside information so that he can change his fucking picks around because he's leading in the football pool. Fuck you, Brian.
Let me tell you the kick returner and punt returner of the year.
Yeah, while you guys do that, I'm gonna refill and go pee.
All right, who is it?
I wanted to do that. Anyway, kick returner and punt return of the year. You go, Justin. Kick returner of the year. And I didn't know if we were going to do coach of the year or not, which is fine.
Oh, we can do. I guess we can do big end of year awards later.
Yeah. Or never. Kick return of the year is Brandon Wilson of the Cincinnati Bengals. This guy,
absolutely.
And I might have this on a note on a piece of paper on the back of a grocery list. Holler to Darren Simmons. This is a guy, look, we do the AFC North cast. I'm supposed to know everybody. But guess what? There's 53 players on each team. There's a bunch of coaches. There's a lot going on. I don't. Darren Simmons is the special teams coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals might be one of Well, they're the least talented team in our division, and that's what we're talking about. They're one of the least talented teams in the NFL. They had a top 5 special teams rating this year. Do you know what that means? Like, special teams are like your back end players. To be able to coach the back end players of a roster filled with lower tier talent to a top 5 performance level in special teams is crazy. Like, this is a moment that the Bengals really need to be commended for. Like, their special teams is really good.
Yep.
And a big part of that is our guy, frickin' Brandon Wilson. He had a 31.3 average yards per kickoff return, and he had a 92-yard TD. He's just really good. I think the Steelers didn't have any 30-yard kickoff returns this year. I'm not even exaggerating. I think that's true. I think they did not have one. Like, he averaged 31.3. To have your back end players perform like this, to be able to block on returns, block cover, all the stuff that goes into that, it's really impressive. I think that, between Joe Burrow, between some of the other stuff going on, hang on to hope. Try to ignore that your scouting department is only 2 people. There are some good things going on. This guy, Darren Simmons, like, talk about a special teams coach that maybe you want to be a head coach. Maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's Darren Simmons. Like,
That's what I'm talking about.
you know what I mean? Like, bring this guy out of nowhere. Let's talk about guys that are really great at their job. Like, it's not like he's working with ace level talent. And by the way, who plays special teams? Linebackers, wide receivers, guys that the Bengals had on crazy levels of injury this year, like corners. These are
Yeah.
players that the Bengals' top level players were injured, so their other guys moved up, and sometimes that means you lose special team reps. So hats off to the Bengals for special teams performance, and this nomination for Brandon Wilson is my little way of celebrating the Bengals' special teams performance all around throughout the year and an excellent individual effort. Punt returner, I was prepared to not nominate this player despite him being named a second team All-Pro as a punt returner. I'm talking about Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson was the second team NFL All-Pro punt returner. And I was like, dude, he didn't even start doing it until whenever. It felt like later in the year that he got his first one. So I was like, okay, fine. He had a punt return for a touchdown. He had a couple nice moves. He fumbled a couple balls out of bounds, which was nice that they went out of bounds. Like, is he really the second best returner? I looked it up. He had 20 returns. That's like right up there. I think it was 6th in the NFL. Or no, it was 14th. It was right in the middle in the NFL of actual number of returns. He had the 12.4 yards, which was first in the NFL in average. And he had an 85-yard touchdown, which was critical in, I believe, the Arizona game in the victory. Like, it wasn't. I mean, he's great. He's great. So he has to be the AFC North punt returner of the year. I wanted to nominate a Cincinnati Bengal, but I think Deontay Johnson earned it. He's a playmaker. He's awesome with the ball in his hands. He breaks tackles. He makes moves. He shimmies. He shakes. He bakes. He's the guy.
I agree. And of qualified punt returners, the second in the division is Alex Erickson, and he averages less than half of the yards that Deontay Johnson does. Deontay Johnson had 7 fair catches on 20 attempts. Alex Erickson had 16 fair catches on 25 attempts. So Alex Erickson's little baby back bitch, scared to get hit, call him fair catches. Deontay Johnson's back there, fearless.
I'd love to see Ryan Switzer's fucking.
I don't think he qualified because he didn't catch them long enough.
Yeah, he didn't return enough. Yeah. So that's that. That's the whole deal right there. If you guys want to jump into anything, I don't know. What else is there?
I second Brandon Wilson and Deontay Johnson.
Justin didn't do it. Do you care about punt return and kick return?
Not even
son.
a little bit.
NFL blitz rules. Go for it every fourth down. 2-point
Every time.
conversions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Onside kicks all the time.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right. That's right. Just remember that this Saturday when the Ravens go for 4th and 1 with 12 minutes left in the first quarter on their own 33-yard line.
Yeah. On their own 25.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk games this weekend or no?
We can. It's playoffs.
Jump on it.
Let's go. This shit's ridiculous. It's going to be like a 3-hour episode. That's okay. Fine. We've been away for a while. It's good to get this
Get
out.
everybody back together. We've had like a little bit of me and Joey, a little bit of Joey and Chad, a little bit of, but now we're all back together. Joey, why don't you go grab another beer, man?
United and it feels so good. Oh, we're going to talk for another beer's worth of...
Oh my gosh, absolutely. We have 3 other games to cover, man. Jeez.
All right, so the
first... We're just going to be like, Seahawks and, and move on? No.
So the first game of the weekend is at 4:30. It is the Minnesota Vikings at the San Francisco 49ers at Levi Stadium, led by Kyle Shanahan. Drink. And, man, the Vikings are fucked.
I was about to say, yeah, I don't see a lot of situations where the Vikings come on top on this one. The Vikings always find a way to squeak their way. They're like Titans light, but also Titans heavy, right? So they're Titans light in the fact that they're fraudulent, but not as fraudulent as the Titans, but they're heavy in the sense that they're way better than the Titans, but they also can't seal the deal. I don't know. Whatever that means, if you have any idea, neither do I. But the Vikings are much better than the Titans, but they're still also fraudulent, and the 49ers, I think, have more than enough intelligence and scheme to be able to stop them. Also, a big thing that people are not talking about enough, in my opinion, is this whole Stephon Diggs thing, man. That dude needs to fucking go. That shit is just outrageous, and it's not contributing to the team. Throwing your helmet on the sideline when you're up halfway through the game. Get over it. Get out of here. I don't know, man. The Vikings are in a little too much disarray, so, yeah. 49ers by, I don't know. What's the line? If it's 4.5, I'll take it.
It's 9.5.
Oh, well, I don't know.
So, Stephon Diggs, just to defend a Terp here, Stephon Diggs was the handy dandy NFL film sideline cameras caught him talking to Kirk Cousins after the infamous Stephon Diggs is such a diva, throwing his helmet on the sideline, having a fit. He's told Kirk Cousins, don't feel like you gotta force shit to me, all right? Play your game. What a diva thing to say to your quarterback.
What a diva.
What an asshole.
Kick him off the team.
Outside of that, the Vikings are still screwed. So the Vikings are the NFL's worst defense against runs from 21 personnel. They allow 6.9 yards a carry and 72% success rate. You want to know what team runs from 21 personnel more than any other team in the league?
Jaguars.
Yeah. It's the San Francisco 49ers.
Of course.
Yeah, I was just about
to say Vikings are fucked, man. Kirk Cousins doesn't get to play in a dome this week. All right. Their offense is too hot and cold. The 49ers are getting back Quan Alexander and Dee Ford. And Kirk Cousins is slowly inching closer to primetime football. Everybody knows the further he gets from that 1 o'clock time slot, he's such a creature of habit. And whatever it is that he does, he plays well at 1 o'clock. He's playing at 4:30. His home road splits are atrocious. It's outside San Francisco by 1 million.
I have this.
Chad?
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco's way better, right? Like this is what we run into every year in the playoffs. Is that
Yeah.
the 1 seed? They're like way better than the team they play in their first game. That's like their performance. I'm a little nervous um, that the talent differential in these two teams is a lot closer than than it usually is in games like this, and that playoff games get played tighter. They just come out. They're just not loose because the stakes are so high. It just tends to be the way it goes. It takes a while for teams to warm up and whatnot. So I want San Francisco to win. I'm going to pick them to win, but I wouldn't bet the spread just because um, Minnesota's defense maybe played their best game last week, and that's a good thing to like if you're a Minnesota fan. And Minnesota's game is it's suited for this sort of thing where you've got a great running back, you can work the play action, you've got a couple athletic receivers if they both play in Diggs and Thielen um, that can break a big play out of a small thing. Um, you run a crossing route, it turns into a big hole touchdown or whatever. You don't have to do a crazy chance in order to make a deep play, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like because everything seems to tighten up in the playoffs, and I just think that the 49ers talent and the Minnesota's talent is closer than their performance this year. But I mean, if the teams play like they've played, San Fran wins by 13, 15, 20. But I wouldn't bet on that. I'd bet on a one-score game.
Yeah, I will say if somehow through some odd crazy way the Vikings find a way to win this game, it's going to be through their defense because Garoppolo, in my opinion, is still suspect. So
Kittle, suspect.
clearly, objectively, but so I think that there is still upset potential. And based off of what it was 9.5, I would probably take the under, but I don't know. I've never done this whole gambling thing before, so don't take my word for it.
The terminology you just used there made that like super clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the under is normally on the total points for the game,
Right.
not the spread,
Ah.
which is why it was
Spread,
very
yeah,
clear.
Yeah, so they're going to win the game by less than 9.5.
Right, that's not
So
the
that
under
means you
though.
would pick Vikings.
What's up? I don't understand. I'm saying that the 49ers win the game by less than 9.5 points.
So you're
Right.
picking the Vikings versus the spread.
That doesn't what? I don't understand what that
So
means.
you're taking the Vikings plus 9.5. That's what your side would be.
I guess so.
The total for the game is 44.5 right now, which is pretty low. That is what you would take over or under. That would be total points.
I would take the over.
Me too, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
But I don't know.
But what the fuck do I know?
I don't have a good feel for totals. But I just feel like the divisional round and this scenario stands in 3 of the games this weekend because I don't think that the Packers are good. I don't think that they have been all year. But everybody just forgets the 1 and 2 seeds, like how much better they typically are than everybody else that's playing in the wild card round. And then everybody just watched these other teams win last week, and so they talked themselves into these other teams being good. And then all these teams come back to reality because like the last 3 Super Bowls have been like 1 and 2 seeds. Like it's how it goes. teams that host championship games go to Super Bowls typically. Like,
Except for the ones that don't.
Well,
except
let's
for
talk about
when they don't.
Steelers,
you,
2005.
since you brought it up, Joey. Let's talk about the other NFC game, the Seahawks and the Packers.
God.
Look, I'll say that I'm picking the Packers, and I think that this is kind of to go with what you were saying, a little bit easier of a pick for me because the Seahawks just barely beat the Eagles that are limped their way to the playoffs and didn't even have a starting quarterback, which Josh McCown did actually play really well that game. He had some like crazy high completion percentage, but also tore his hamstring off the bone, right? So that being said, I think that the Seahawks are. It's weird because the Seahawks obviously won the game the way that they always win games, which is by like a fucking single point or whatever, right? Um, but yeah, I don't know. The Packers defense has been so on point this year. I heavily underestimated them this year, but they've overperformed, I think. But I think they'll continue to do that. And the Packers offense, I mean, Aaron Rodgers just somehow finds a way to keep winning games, man. So I think that the Seahawks defense has been underperforming. So yeah, I'm picking the Packers, and I think that I feel pretty comfortable with that. I I would say even probably more comfortable than I do with the 49ers and the Vikings.
You want to know a little secret?
What's up?
The
Aaron Rodgers isn't playing.
The Eagles beat the Packers in Lambeau this year, 34-27,
Okay.
and the Seahawks beat the Eagles in Philly,
Right. With like
and we're beating them with Carson. I'm just saying. I trust right now, and this might be absolutely insane. I trust Russell Wilson more than I trust Aaron Rodgers. And that's just what it comes down to for me. The crazy shit happens when the Packers and the Seahawks play. And it's not even just like Russ and Aaron Rodgers. Like the fail Mary, right? That was Packers Seahawks. We're going to take the ball and we're going to score. That was Packers Seahawks. Like crazy shit happens when these two teams play. And I just don't think you can count out Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers feels different this year. I know he doesn't throw interceptions still, but he's starting to go towards like too conservative, like too cautious for me as far as like protecting the ball. And I feel like Aaron Rodgers takes less chances than he used to. And he needs to take more chances. Chad?
What I love about everything I've heard about this game is it's all centered. I mean, half of it is centered on Russell Wilson, and that's the people that pick the Seahawks. They're like, Russell Wilson, he rolls out 50 yards behind the line of scrimmage away from his throwing arm, and he throws touchdowns to Tyler Lockett, who's somehow uncovered. It's crazy. Or it's people that talk about Aaron Rodgers, 50% of whom pick the Seahawks to win, and 50% of whom pick Green Bay to win. And they're like, Aaron Rodgers is going to try to make some crazy plays, even though Aaron Jones is the key to the Green Bay winning this game, and they're going to lose. Or Aaron Rodgers is going to just find a way to win this game. Like, he is uncoachable at this point in his career, and he wants to work outside the offense. But most of the time that doesn't work. But in a playoff game, that can work because it's a special kind of individual circumstance, and individual excellence can carry you to victory. Which, to me, means that Aaron Rodgers has fulfilled his destiny and become, yes, Brett Favre. He has become the guy that either wins the game or absolutely loses the game for his franchise, which was his destiny when he was drafted. So congratulations, Aaron Rodgers. You have officially fulfilled your destiny. And that's a big deal for a person. Let's be honest with ourselves. Most of us may never know if we do that or not.
So then, who's the next Aaron Rodgers? I guess it's Deshaun Kaiser then, huh?
No, they haven't drafted him yet, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
That being said, I don't know. I don't know who's gonna win. Joey made all the points. Like this game's a weird game. Like it's a very weird game. I think in my gut analytics department, right underneath the bow tie, I think I like the Seahawks. But that's just because I don't think I've watched a Packers game this year. So I don't have like a good reason. Like I think if the Packers honestly do like a full blown Aaron Jones game and they have a good blocking plan for Jadeveon Clowney, who is he is an exceptional run defender. Like everyone talks about Jadeveon rushing the quarterback and all the dreadlocks flying and all this stuff, but like he is an exceptional run defender. If they can deal with him and simultaneously focus the game to Aaron Jones, I think that the Packers actually win comfortably. I just don't know if they'll do it.
And for all you degenerate gamblers, if you want to talk about like big time, huge sample sizes and in-game betting, at halftime, you could have a pretty big decision to make. Russell Wilson in his career is 65-7 straight up when leading at the half. Aaron Rodgers in his career at home is 62-1-1 when leading at the half. So whoever's leading at the half probably going to win the game.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's how you bet.
All right. AFC side, y'all already talked Ravens. Well, we already talked Ravens, Titans. So Texans, Chiefs, clean sweep Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah. Andy Reid off a bye is legendarily good. The Chiefs at home. The Chiefs are healthy. They're getting Chris Jones back, so the book on the Chiefs has been play man defense and run the ball to slow the game down. Chris Jones is going to make sure that the Texans don't have very much success running the football. Bill O'Brien this year, TMZ released footage this year of Bill O'Brien in the most hilarious way possible, acknowledging that he sucks. When the Texans lost at home to the Broncos this year, the team was heading into the tunnel, and a Texans fan said, "Hey, Bill O'Brien, you suck." And Bill O'Brien turned around, walked back out of the tunnel a little bit, and said, "You suck too, motherfucker."
Oh, what an L. What a fucking L, man.
Nailed it.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah, it's like Andy Reid versus Bill O'Brien. Like, who you gonna trust more? And it's just another like, have we? I can't understand how the Chiefs lost any games this year. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. In like the last 10 weeks of the season, they've had the number one defense by DVOA in the league. Like, their offense is insane. They have like 4 guys that are faster than anybody else in the league. They're just so good, man. I can't see them losing at home. They've had time to prepare. They're rested. They're healthy. Like, It's Bill O'Brien.
I cannot wait for the entire world to just be fucking frustrated, pissed off, annoyed, dejected when we get a Titans-Texans AFC Championship.
God, they need to do Color Rush if they do that, and one of the teams has to wear the Jaguars mustard yellow jerseys anyways.
And I think we all agree that the game should be played on Thursday.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's be real. Let's be real with ourselves. Yeah, Justin made the joke better than I was going to. We all want to see the Chiefs play the Ravens
Yeah.
as football fans. Um, so get it done. Get it done, Andy Reid. Don't drop the ball. Andy Reid, for all of his genius, has become known as a coach who basically doesn't quite fulfill his potential. Um, so I would say that right now the Chiefs' potential looks like AFC Championship or maybe more. And that means that we are right in the Andy Reid threshold of disaster.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that makes me nervous and would make me hesitate as a betting man. But I'm very enthusiastic for the Chiefs. They have a ton of talent. I'm really excited to watch the game. And there's no reason except for if two Chiefs defenders hit Deshaun Watson simultaneously, thus keeping him immaculately in balance for him to throw a touchdown in the final waning seconds
Crazy.
to
I was
beat
so
them.
fucking mad watching that.
For them to not make the AFC Championship game, I think it's all for them. So
All right. Fuck, man. What an episode, guys.
awards.
We had highs and lows. We had 2, then 3. And then at some point back to 2.
It was good. It's so worth. Football season is such a joy, and it's so much pain, except for Joey this year. But man, if the Ravens lose at any point, all of Justin and I's pain is gonna all go into Joey, and it's gonna crystallize
Fester.
into a meteorite.
Just
because
fester like gangrene.
Yeah.
Just
you don't just get to win Super Bowls. And the honest to goodness truth is that next year we're going to start talking in the preseason. We're going to talk about draft picks, and we're going to talk about college kids, and we're going to talk about guys. And you should pay attention because there were people we talked about early in this year that were a big deal, and we'll cover that. But we don't know and what's going to happen with Lamar, but we do know this. People are paying attention, and they're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to deal with it. And maybe it'll work just as well next year. Maybe it won't. So now's the time to do it. And if they lose, we are going to have a sorry Joey all-time listener high probably on this one. So.
Yeah.
what a fucking smelting, liquid, fiery hot take. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
That's right.
Oh man. Well, you guys want to send us off? Is that it?
Yeah, the last time the Ravens beat the Titans, it was 21-0 on the back of Joe Flacco against this
wasn't it
Dean
like 8
Pease
sacks or some
defense
shit?
with like 9 sacks.
Ugh.
Fuck out of here with
Disgusting.
that Titans garbage.
Disgusting. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging out with us for, if you stuck out this long, for the 4.5 hours or however long we've been going for at this point. But we got a lot done. We talked about a lot of interesting stuff. So even if you got to break it up yourself, it's worth listening to the entire way through. But yeah, we'll see what happens this week with the AFC North. If we're still in contention, if we're still able to talk about our teams on this glorious podcast. And if not, then I guess we'll still continue a discussion anyways. We still do have to talk about rookies of the year, players of the year, coach of the year type stuff. So we'll still have some more content to talk about, regardless of whether or not the AFC North is still in the playoffs after this week, which, as you can see by all of us, we probably will be. But other than that, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with us. Catch us on Facebook, catch us on Twitter, catch us on Twitch, catch us on YouTube, catch us anywhere you can get podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your family. We're here to hang out with you and talk some outstanding AFC North football. And don't forget, next season we'll be here too to talk about the exciting football that is AFC North after Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady come to the Cleveland Browns. But
Tractor Cedo. Rum.
anyways, you guys got anything else? Any last words to send everybody off with?
John Dorsey
No.
died for your sins.
I mean,